All right, now seeing that it's 6 o'clock, I'll call the meeting for the Wage and Personnel Committee for the town of Kingston, Thursday, January 18th, to order. Just a quick announcement, the meeting's recorded by Zoom. Anyone intended to make an audio or video recording of this meeting should notify the chair at this time. Not seeing any notification. Then items that we do have on this agenda may be taken out of order at the discretion of the chair, especially if we need some people to pop into the meeting and so forth. The first item on the agenda is Tina with her update.
I actually don't have too much. Usually it's just recruitment, which is what this is going to be. So our finance director position is still out there. We got a number of applicants for the clerical pool position. I've been going through those. My next step with those is to reach out to those candidates to have them fill out applications, and then from there figure out who I want to bring in. We still have the substitute librarian and the substitute circulation desk position open, at least on the wage and personnel side. We have a few labor positions, including a CDL driver in street trees and parks and the water foreman. So not that there's many people, if any, on here, but if anyone's interested in those, please go to the employment website, where you will see the job descriptions and the way to apply. The only other pieces coming down the pike is, as you know, we made changes to our health insurance for fiscal 24. There are additional changes happening in fiscal 25. Open enrollment usually is April, May. And so we're starting to work on the education pieces of all that. So people will have an understanding of what's going to be offered this year, changes in ratios of contributions, and we're adding the dental plan.
Excellent. Anybody any questions?
Nope, no, thank you.
How many clerical are we hiring?
So it's clerical pool, so
Yeah.
I do like to get at least 5. I have no one right now,
Okay.
because we either hired them or they've moved away. So I'd like to get at least 5, but honestly, if I get more, then I kind of just keep them in the rotation.
Super.
Next item is we'll be into the discussion and action items. The first item there will be the annual report of 2023. Which I think there's a copy of it here, if I'm not mistaken, is that right? You have a copy? Is this the one that we did on the email?
Yes.
Yes, I
That should
saw
be
it.
up there with you.
Yeah. Yep, I saw this. Does anybody have any questions regarding this report?
Nope,
Okay, basically, it's summarizing up the report that Lorraine did in 22 and changed some things, because we basically did all the same things. in
yeah, pretty
23.
much, yeah,
Okay,
yep, once we got past that.
have we approved it?
No,
It's due tomorrow.
Okay, so I would, then I would take a motion.
I move to approve the report of the Wage and Personnel Board for the year 2023
As written.
as written.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
I'll call the roll. Darlene?
Aye.
Lorraine?
Aye.
Jim, aye.
All in favor? What did I just say that for? Sorry.
That's all right.
So want to be
That's
chair
right.
again?
No, no.
She likes to be.
That's right.
Oh, my Lord.
The next item on is requested clarification on section 15 miscellaneous provisions. It's an email dated from 1/16/24.
It actually was 111 to you
111.
guys. I don't know. I'm sorry, 1211. I'm not sure, but you guys sent it to
I
the
wrote
rest of the group.
116 because I think it was a
Yeah,
thread.
mine's
There was a
116
follow-up,
because
yeah.
it's a thread.
Yeah, it's a thread.
Yep,
So that was the latest thread. That's why I
sorry. Yep.
posted it.
All right, so I'm looking for the one that I've gotten.
And you guys look for it and then Tina can bring
Yeah.
up the issues and then we can discuss.
Yeah, this is the last one.
Darlene, you up to date on it?
I'm looking.
Yeah, this is the one I got from today.
16.
I got this from today
Oh.
from you.
Right.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so that's the one.
The
you
original email was dated December the 11th,
Yeah, somewhere, yeah.
and then there's a thread.
Yep, December 11th. and then it goes up and ta-da.
Let's see. I have December 11th, if you want my copy. I probably have it in your single, but it should have been.
You want this one?
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
You just see it. But
Tina, you want
Sure.
to outline it for us?
Sure, so, the miscellaneous provision talks about when, okay, so basically it's employees transferring or successfully bidding on a wage personnel position that come from a non-wage personnel position shall have their original date of hire with the town recognized that it pertains to eligibility for any benefits available for wage and personnel positions.
Mhm.
So in the past, at least my past, in year 8, by the way, we've only ever dealt with this with union employees getting promoted into the department head position. And in those cases, if someone was a union employee, starting in 2000 and they got promoted in 2012, we'd count 2000 as their time. And so they just basically carried over their benefits and their longevity and their accrual for vacation. So this was brought up because, as you recall, you all appointed Holly to the Assistant Director of Elder Affairs position, which has been in the bylaw for a number of years. It wasn't part of the wage study because no one was in it, which is why it was most recently brought up. So it got graded, and then also in Holly's case, I believe there was a presentation about a salary as to what step the person she should come in at. So Holly had brought up that miscellaneous provision because Holly was in a position that is or was on a grant. As you know, the grant positions don't live anywhere. They don't live in wage and personnel. They don't live in the union. There's a number of reasons for that. One is grant positions could go away the following year. They if we put a grant position in either the bylaw or union position, those contracts and bylaws what dictates their salary. So we're basically telling the grant people, now you pay them $28 this year or whatever. And so anyway, so it kind of gives, that's the reason why those positions aren't in. The positions also for the grants, for the most part, if not all of them, are less than 20 hours a week. And so in general, wage and personnel employees under 20 hours a week don't have any benefits, including medical, but also no PTO. On the union side of the house, I think it must have been 2000, their negotiations in 2000, they negotiated that any employee in the union, whether they are 35 hours a week, 40 hours a week, 20 hours a week, 15 hours a week, will get vacation, PTO at their prorated rate. And when that was negotiated, it was brought to wage personnel to say, do you all want to do the same thing? At the time, you had said no, it's been consistent that way. So in the case of Holly specifically, and the position she was in under the grant, the position itself didn't live in either house. And so at this time anyway, we are not looking back at the hire date of the grant position to say this is how many years you should have towards vacation. But the question really comes up about how to interpret this provision itself.
Okay.
May I have a moment?
I think what we'd like to do is just finish the presentation, and then I'm going to ask for comments from the anybody but the board. So just give us 1 second, because I don't want to lose the train of thought. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Marie.
All right, so basically the position right now is less than 20 hours with no benefits in
No, the position she's in
Yeah.
now
No,
is
I'm sorry.
full-time.
prior.
Yeah, prior,
Yes, the
yeah.
prior one.
Yeah.
It's like, and then now she's into a regular one. Okay. All right, thank you.
So my question would be, Lorraine, were you on the board when this came up?
I don't recall.
Okay.
When was it? Was it 5 years ago?
I think it was with the 2000 negotiations, because 17 is when I started, and they didn't ask it then. I'm pretty sure it happened with the 2000 negotiations, because the 2003, it was already in play.
Yeah,
Was
because
there a
doesn't make-
reason as to why?
Yes, so KTU wanted to provide less than part-time employees with prorated PTO for vacation time, because they were already getting personal time and sick time, as a recruitment incentive. But also a lot of the positions had been here for a number of years. So it wasn't like a turnover type of situation, and they felt that it would help the employer on our side do with on recruitment, and then also treat their members fairly.
But any reason, how about why wage and personnel didn't do it?
So I think, and you might recall anything, I'm not sure, but I think one of the reasons that came up is, as you know, wage and personnel has a number of positions in it, not just regular ones, not just full-time ones. And so I think it would have been more difficult to decipher. So if wage and personnel followed the KTU template, as they do for other types of things, then what we're saying is rec employees will start accumulating vacation, stipend employees will start, maybe not stipend, but that type of thing. You know, we have hourly employees, just straight up hourly employees that don't work more than 19 hours a week that are in wage and personnel. So I think the understanding was it would just be more costly to the town. That's not the intention of those positions, even if they're consistent. We have others that aren't, like the rec people or just normal seasonals. So that was the idea.
Has this come up before?
This thing, no, but like I said, I don't think we've had, at least in my time, we haven't had a situation where someone didn't come into wage and personnel from a nothing besides a union position. And so as the union employee, they'd have a history here.
But under the current contract, the
Mhm.
wage and personnel person, what if a wage and personnel person working part-time went to KTU?
They would allow that time.
So the wage and personnel time would count towards the KTU time. If a
But it-
KTU person came to wage and personnel part-time and then took a wage and personnel full-time, what would happen?
Well, I haven't had that example, so I
Okay.
haven't,
I'm just trying to.
No, I get it.
understand the mechanism.
I just want to make sure I haven't had that example. So on the labor side, we really don't have anyone that's part-time like that.
Okay.
I mean, years ago, again, literally as I was just starting, we had, actually, he's the wastewater position now. We had what was called a casual worker for the rec department. It was seasonal, but kind of year round, but wacky hours, so nothing's consistent. So that person would not have gotten PTO, but when they went over to a full-time wastewater position, they carried their hire date with them. And so
And that was a KTU position?
it
or-
was right. So it was a less than part-time wage personnel position over to a full-time
KTU,
KTU position.
So
So
in
they
that-
carried their hire date with them.
right, which
Yeah.
you said that would.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, so it would, no, I'm fine.
Okay, anything, Darla?
No, just the simple fact that, I mean, pretty much they could carry, I mean, it's two different things with the benefits. They typically had grants and even, what about somebody with 19.5 hours? They typically would get benefits. If
No, not at all.
even
I mean,
if-
well, so here's the thing,
Yeah.
right? So 19 and a half.
Right.
They don't get medical benefits unless they consistently start working over 20 hours, then we offer them that. But I try to manage that. But like I said, if it's 19 and a half hours and they're on wage and personnel, they don't get PTO. If they're 19 and a half hours and they're on KTU, they get PTO.
Yeah, because what I've heard in different towns, you know, maybe they are allowed to participate in like the Voya plan, you know, or some kind of that type of plan where they could accumulate the time. But if they go from that to wage and personnel position, then of course that retro part back to the day of hire is never, it doesn't, for
So
benefits, it doesn't.
for benefits, it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So
But for the pension stuff,
right, so
Potentially,
so
depending on the
working,
town.
yeah, so working for a town, no town takes out social
Right.
security. And so the mechanism for those positions that aren't pension eligible, so
Right.
these part-time employees for the most part, the equivalent of social security gets put into a Voya, we use a Voya account here. So if they, you know, they leave, they take it with them, they do whatever. If they become pension eligible, I believe they work with county to have that money, the money transferred over to the pension piece of it, and then they work with the county to figure out if any of that time, how much that eats away at their best.
And that would be the only time that would happen, but for vacations and the
Yeah.
actual benefits, end of it typically would never apply in that case where the person could be in a grant position for 3 years and never accumulate that benefit, go
PTO
back,
benefit.
yeah,
PTO part,
Yeah.
yeah.
All
so,
Any,
and it is, it's universal, pretty much,
Okay.
Yeah.
any other questions here?
Just a quick one. What benefits, if any, does a grant person receive? So
When you say benefits, clarify a little bit, so we understand.
time off,
No.
vacation,
No.
sick time.
No.
Holiday.
No,
And they
holiday.
typically, they would know that
Yes.
going into the position too.
Right.
Unless
That's-
it's spelled
that's-
out in the job description for a grant.
yeah, and
That's why I asked for this and it
Yeah,
is. That's why I
Yeah.
asked for this.
And
is-
so the thing with the grants,
Right.
and it's similar to, I think, why, when we talked about where, most recently this came up with the health grant, the shared
Yes.
health grant around the
Mhm.
towns. And so, those positions live nowhere for Kingston, or when we have that grant, they've lived nowhere. And again, part of that is if we say, okay, grant position, you're gonna live in wage and personnel, or you're even gonna live in KTEU, that contract and that bylaw and our typical rules apply to that employee, right? And so if they're 19 and a half hours a week and it lives in KTU, that grant now has to cover their paid time off. If they're 20 hours a week, that grant has to cover the cost of their benefits. It's not a town cost.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons behind it.
Mhm.
I think other towns do try to put the grant positions in some type of pocket, but at least working with some of the other towns with these grants that we once had, now others have, they're coming into the same situation because I don't know if grants are even set up to pay for benefits that way. I think it's just straight salary that they can pay.
The best thing I can recall is that you're getting flat amount of money.
Yep. Per
To
hour.
apply to the grant employee.
Oh, yep.
For their benefit, not their comp, the compensation, their monetary compensation. So I don't remember hearing anything in a grant about other things other than.
No, and it's
comp.
funny because, so when we had the shared health grant,
Mhm.
we had an employee that was a town employee working less than 20 hours a week, became a grant employee, but because Kingston owned the grant at the time, was still considered those two positions combined to say this is how many hours a week this employee between these two positions. And so at that point, the grant work brought them over the 20 hours a week. So they were eligible for benefits. And so the grant, if that person had taken it, had to pick up the cost of that.
Mhm.
So, that's like $20,000-$30,000 a year. So,
Okay. All right, anybody that would like to speak, if you could just say your name and address the issue, that'd be fine. Okay?
Yes, thank you very much. Mary Beth Lawton, Director of Elder Affairs for the Town of Kingston. Thank you for acknowledging me this evening. This was brought up, actually, Holly and I had a very long conversation about this, and I have to be honest with you, from the day I started in the position, I could never understand how Kingston handled people that were in grants. I understand that many grants are temporary. They're only written for a year or 2 years, but you have to look at the grant that funded both, I believe, Darlene's position from before when she was with the Council on Aging, as well as Holly's old position, the formula grant. You can look at that formula grant like you look at the cherry sheet money that's coming into the town of Kingston every single year from the Commonwealth. That's rock solid. That's never going to change. The only thing that's going to change on that perhaps is, say, in middle of the year, we have a problem with funding like we're having right now, where the governor has pulled back on certain earmarks, but she has not touched the actual grant itself, the formula grant. We're still being paid per senior according to the census for the town of Kingston. So it's not as though that money is going to just dry up and go away. You can count on that every single year. I've been paid under the formula grant in just about every other position that I've been in since I've been working for municipalities as a COA director. There has never, ever been an effort to claw money back from the grant in order to pay for any of the benefits that I had. That was completely outside of the grant. That was, I think that one of the finance directors actually went to the DOR and was told that it was not an appropriate use of the funds. And that's exactly why, when you look at the grants that the police get, it's one of the biggest problems that they have, because it comes with the proviso that you may not take out the benefits from that grant. The benefits have to be funded separately by the town. So I'm going to have a disagreement with that particular statement. That is, I do not believe that is accurate here in Kingston. It should not be the case in Kingston. The concern that I have is this, very simply. I think it's the inequity, what's going on. When we, as a department head, when we see that a contract has been negotiated for the KTEU, we know that as a department head and a wage and personnel employee, we're going to get parity with that contract, right? And so in this particular case, the part-time people that are union, they get those benefits, but all of a sudden the people that are part-time on the other side don't get that. And again, I'm pointing out what I believe is an inequity, and it's compounded by the fact that this particular position is being paid out of the grant. And so Tina says it beautifully. They don't exist. It's like they get nothing. They get a job, they get a chair, they get a computer. Thank you. That's it. They don't get the benefits of being part. And when you stop and think about this too, you want people to be married to you as much as you want them to marry you. And so showing them that they have skin in the game, so to speak, even if they are part-time. My part-time outreach person up in Hamilton absolutely accrued sick days and absolutely accrued vacation time. And it was predicated upon the number of hours that she worked every single week. Okay, during the entire year. So the number of hours. And the last point that I'd like to make on this, I think is really is one of the most important. If Holly, who has been with the town of Kingston since 2019, September of 2019, and took this position on August 28th of 2023, she started the position, and of course she has to go into the Plymouth County retirement system. They, of course, went back and looked at all the time that she had in, because they recognize she exists. They don't care how she's paid. They care that she worked for the town of Kingston. She's worthy, and they pulled those hours in. And so she's accrued years already, time in on the Plymouth County pension as a result of working for the town of Kingston since 2019. And I only think that it's fair that you guys take a hard look at this and try to find a compromise, was to be able to come up with some kind of a plan. I mean, Holly's now, for her, it's a question of the amount of right now her vacation. Okay, she loves the job. She has grown right into it. I couldn't do without her right now. She's my right arm. But it's just not fair that she didn't get recognized for all of those years that she put in working for the town of Kingston. And if Plymouth County Retirement Board can do that, certainly the town of Kingston can do that, regardless of whether or not you guys decide that you think that they should be getting any kind of PTO. But I do believe that they should be recognized for that and paid outside of paid outside of the grant, because you can't use the grant to pay for those benefits.
Mhm.
Any,
Yes.
Go ahead.
So, well, like you were saying, Tina, first and foremost, I mean, going into any grant position, the person accepts it. They know that they're not going to be paid benefits. They accept it at the inception of the position. And of course, with the municipalities or any type of government position, you do have to pay into some kind of social security or something, pension systems. So that's why they see it as an accumulation, okay, of, time and accrued and so on. But when it comes to the benefits, it's where does it come out for a grant, unless it's specified somewhere, which it isn't. That's why I asked for the job description tonight. It was never specified, grant position, 19 hours, grant funded, as well as benefits. Doesn't say that. So anybody that read this going into the position would have accepted it and knew that they weren't going to accumulate vacation time, or, you know, even when you have those Mondays off, you know, they didn't get paid. So any person accepting this type of a position knows that at the very beginning of the job. So now coming back and transitioning or transferring over to a wage and personnel position, it starts over. You know, to me, that starts a new type of, you know, contract, let's just say. So I don't see how I would love to say that it's a good thing, but for Holly, because, you know, I'm sure she's recognized as, like you said, she's working very well with everything, and she, you know, but going back in time, I don't see how that can happen with this job.
Well,
Can I just-
So,
can I-
so the
I-
feeling, so the feeling is that, quite honestly, of course, she accepted it. She accepted the position knowing that. But I think what you're forgetting here is that you're doing it already. You're already recognizing part-time people when giving them benefits, and those are the union people. But you're not giving that same benefit
But a
to your
union job-
part-time people under, I completely disagree with the concept that because someone is paid, the way that somebody's paid, however they're being paid, whether it's through, you know, a formula grant or some other kind of a grant, it should live in wage and personnel because they are working for that town. This is the only town I've ever worked for that has never recognized somebody that's part-time being paid for the grant and not getting any benefits for it. They're punishing the person for working under a grant. And never, ever have I ever heard this before. Never, not once. And I've been doing this 20 years.
Well, that's actually, Mary Beth, that's not so true in terms of some of the towns I know, because I called around. And, you know, unless it's specified somewhere, you know, that they would do it, we don't, and not all towns do. So I do respect what you're trying to do for Holly because she is exceptional. However, to go backwards, I don't agree with that. Accepting any kind of position that is grant funded, there's certain things that you just accept. And then going forward, if you get transferred into something better, great, move on. So, but to go backwards and then say I should have, could have, it's not gonna, I don't see how that could be, unless it's specified. I even went back to look at some things to paralytically look for something that said that she could get something like benefits.
Your wage and personnel plan says it.
There was-
And actually that's why because that section H says that she gets that. That's my point. You've taken, so now I wanted to say this. We need to stop making this about Holly. This is about a policy, and this is about a position, and this is about something that I think would be a benefit to the town. If you want to be able to bring people on board that are part-time, that you can let them know that they can expect that they're going to get some kind of benefits, not the same as everybody else, but in a part-time position, they absolutely should accrue some kind of hours somewhere.
And this
along
has to
the
go to
line.
town meeting to do something
What's
like
that?
It has, in order to
We
make it.
start with you guys. We
So
always.
going forward, it would have to be, you would have to make some kind of, you know, proposal, submit it, you know, and go through the channels, go that through that vetted process. So as it stands now, maybe in the future, I don't know, but it has to go through town meeting.
So, okay.
We're starting with you guys tonight because
No,
we're trying
Mary
to
Beth,
get.
Mary Beth,
Mary
I'm
Beth,
just saying.
Mary Beth, I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
you made your point and I've got it, and you've made your point. I want to let Tina come back into the conversation.
Yep.
Based on what she was saying, and then I want Lorraine to make her point, and then I have a point.
Sure.
So, go ahead.
So a couple of things. So agreed that, county recognizes time in position with any entity, not just the particular town you get hired full-time to. However, I believe you have to buy that time back. So they might say, yeah, you have 7 years, but unless you give us $50,000, we're not counting it. So that's one thing. So yes, they could recognize it, but they won't add it, unless you do that provision. The other piece is, like we talked about before, so if this position, first off, the nature of the position wouldn't live in the union, just because the union has they have a charter as well in terms of what types of positions could live there. You know, could a case be made that this is a regular position because it's tied to a grant that we always have had? Yes. again, if it lived in the union, it would get graded out. And so then we're telling the grant holder, you have to pay this person $25 an hour of that grant money. I don't know how much the grant is to begin with, or however many positions you're pulling out from it. But for this position, because it has a real, place to live, we're telling you how much this grant position has to be paid. So again, I'm not saying, I understand why grant positions aren't in either camp. That's one of the reasons. It's the nature of the position that dictates where it would live. And because of the nature of this type of position, it doesn't fall into either of those buckets. The other piece is, as we said, with wage and personnel encompasses a whole bunch of types of positions, not just full-time, not just part-time. And so if we started saying, all these other positions, the seasonal rec and, all those others, if they all are going to start accumulating benefit, PTO, then again, that's something we have to do across the board. And I don't know cost-wise what that would look like, but I know that's always a concern.
Okay.
So,
All right, Lorraine?
I don't know how the administration of that would work.
Okay.
My question is, how
Who's it
many
to? Who's
hours?
it to?
Huh?
Who's your question to?
I'm terribly sorry. It's to, Mary Beth.
Okay.
How many hours a week did she work?
We
While she
had-
was on the grant.
Right, so she was under 20 hours a week.
Okay, so she was working under 20. When you read when I read it, and I tend to be very black and white. When you're reading section 15H, it says, as it pertains to eligibility for any benefits available for wage and personnel positions, as an under 20 hour a week employee, they're not eligible for benefits. To me, that's as black and white as it gets. There's no, if as a grant employee under 20, she's not eligible under wage and personnel for any of the stuff that she wants. So if you're going from 1 to 1.
So that's not my interpretation of it, because when I read it, it actually says to me that when you have an original start date, you're part-time, and you're gonna go into a full-time position, your time comes with you. That's exactly to me what that line says.
I think it's an overcomplication of something very simple. Either you get the benefits or you don't. And if you're under 20 hours a week, you don't get benefits under wage and personnel or union.
medical benefits.
Yeah, medical benefits. So I don't understand. I understand what you're saying, and you're looking, and I understand and agree with Polly's importance to us. But I'm looking at a black and white.
So you're saying she's not eligible for benefits now?
I'm saying under 15H, nobody who is under 20 goes to a different job.
So she goes from part-time to full-time.
Okay, well, let me just finish. If she's under 20 on the grant, then she's under 20 grant and doesn't get any benefits as a wage and personnel employee under 20. All right, she's not going to the union. She's
Right.
going to wage.
She's coming from a non-wage and personnel. That's what it says. She's coming
Yeah,
from a non-wage and personnel position, going into a full-time wage and personnel position. That's exactly what she did. From a non.
I don't see
personnel.
anything as a full-time anything. But we are talking apples and oranges because she's trying to accumulate time that she's not, because if she was under 20 as a grant, she's not eligible for benefits.
Okay, hold on 1 second. So if she wasn't being paid under a grant, and let's hold that thought for 1 second.
Sorry, what was that, hon?
Hold the thought that she's being paid under a grant, just hold that to the side for a second.
Sure.
So if she was working 24 hours and it was a non-wage and personnel position, and she bid on a full-time job in wage and personnel, she could take her time with her, yes?
Correct, because it's over 20 hours.
Because it's over 20.
If it's
Right.
under 20 hours, she gets nothing.
So the only reason you're denying her the ability to take her time with her when she goes into a full-time position is, let me repeat again, because of the funding mechanism that's being used.
No,
Absolutely.
it's because.
Well, what else is
simply-
it?
Well, it's
The black
because
and white,
if you read the last sentence
Yeah.
of the of the, section 15 miscellaneous provision
Do
H.
you have it? Okay.
Okay, it says, let me read the whole thing so we're all on the same
Yeah.
page.
Yeah.
Employees transferring or successfully bidding on a wage and personnel position that come from a non-wage and personnel position shall have their original date of hire with the town recognized
Right,
as it pertains to eligibility for any benefits available for a wage and personnel position. So that's the part of the law that says, because she didn't qualify as a wage and personnel person because she was under 20 hours, she's not eligible to have any of the benefits of a wage and personnel position. It's
But if you're
because of the
doing-
hours, it's because of
Right.
the hours,
but
not
hold
the
on.
pay,
So-
not, let me finish. It's the hours, not where the source of the pay was.
But you've drafted a contract with the union that gives them exactly that.
No, and now that's the last point I'm going to make,
That's it.
which is we, as a board, have always tried to make sure that we assimilate our proposals with what's happened to KTEU. Please understand those words. We try. It does not mean that we match KTEU for every single line in their contract for every wage and personnel position for several reasons. One, as Tina pointed out, there's part-time seasonal employees that don't fit under the KTEU framework. That doesn't work applying all the benefits to them. It also doesn't make, in some cases, financial sense for the town to keep track of all of that for that group of people. So that's the reason why there are some exceptions that we don't match the union policies word for word. There are some exceptions. This happens to be one of them. We're not required- we're not
You know,
required-
I gotta be honest with you. When I hear the phrase, it doesn't make sense. It makes if you're coming from this from the outside like I am, stepping into it, looking at it, I'm trying to give you guys a whole other perspective that other towns, other municipalities, other financial directors have given me direction on and showed me how this works, especially under the grants. And so I know you guys have been in doing this, you've been working at it. The problem that I have right now is that it seems as though this is something that is just going to make a little bit of that, maybe a lot more work for somebody else. But the point being is that you always have a cutoff when you start talking about these hours. Under 800 hours a week, you accrue nothing. So your lifeguards and those guys, don't worry about them. We're talking about the people like Holly she was putting in, 1,000. So why isn't she being recognized for those 1,000 hours? She's putting in at least more than half of what the 1,820 hours is considered full-time. So I keep coming back to this issue that I just want somebody, this isn't the end of the argument. I just hope that this discussion goes forward from the fact that I've brought this out, because I happen to be, again, it's not just Holly. If we have another formula grant person, and if another opportunity comes up for somebody to be able to take a part-time job at the Council on Aging, I want to give them the same parity that the union people have. It just is fair to me. It just doesn't seem right that we're saying well, it's just too much work, or it just doesn't make any sense. That's not right.
Well, that'll be a great new chapter then, at some
Well,
point.
I mean, Mary Beth, I certainly respect your opinion on it, and I can see your point of the fairness, but I can also see Tina's point as well. And I can also, having, as you said, living on that side, living on this side, and being presented these different, things that have happened in contracts, whether it's police union, fire union, or KTU, we watch them all. And our job is to try to protect the wage and personnel people as much as we possibly can, not take benefits away. We try to put as much of it as we can. I take it back to the last meeting when we increased bereavement time to match KTEU.
I saw that.
Okay,
Yeah, no,
so-
I thought that was
so-
nice, really was.
And I can give you example after example of that. So, your point's taken. I understand it. I just think, quite frankly, my opinion, my hands are tied based on what I'm reading here. In terms of the fact that the person's not a wage and personnel person, therefore, doesn't qualify under wage and personnel just because of the hours, not because of the funding, just because of the hours. And because of that, I cannot extend. It forbids me in the bylaw. Now, change the bylaw and give me some flexibility to do it, or change the code in the bylaw. I'm willing to, I'll do whatever the bylaw says that I have to do.
But you're the guys, aren't you the guys that bring forward?
Well,
these
I'll tell you,
pieces on the wage and
can tell you-
personnel section?
I can tell you what will happen after this discussion, at least in my opinion. I'd like to investigate it. I'd like to, but I'd like to also get the town's perspective.
Mhm.
In other words, if we do this, what are the ramifications? Okay, because we're hypothetically trying to figure it all out here, and to Tina's credit, she doesn't have every single position in her head that she can say, oh, well, this is gonna happen here, and this is gonna happen here.
Right.
It's all gonna be looked at a little differently, so, but as it relates to this job, based on the rules that we have in place, okay, I can't turn around, I would not vote in favor of it. That's me. If the other members want to, and come up with their own proposal, I'm fine with that. But I do believe that the case you brought up needs further discussion. That's what the benefit of this discussion is coming to, needs further discussion, and I think we'll have that.
Good.
I'd like Jennifer to make a note that we bring it up as a discussion point at some other point when we're talking about the bylaws. So the way it's gonna work, the bylaws have to be changed in order to tackle that. We change the bylaws all the time when we get a problem. We just don't
Right.
do it instantly.
Right.
No, I believe me, I totally get this. This isn't to benefit Holly now. This
No,
is not
no.
about. This
And I'm
is-
not,
this is-
and I'm not looking at Holly, I'm not looking at any
But
person,
anything-
it's
Right.
all the people.
So even
I-
anything, it depends too, where our grant's coming from. If it's coming from the state to subsidize a position within the municipality, and then the municipality is gonna pay the benefits. That has to be a town approved,
Well, they pay them anyway. Then we
No,
match,
but when
we
I'm
pay them anyway.
The funding in this particular case is coming from the state to pay for the position itself, but then for the benefits, the municipality would end up eating the benefits in terms of all the things that they would get.
They have
vacation.
to on all the grants, but Darlene, they have to on all the grants that they're getting from the Commonwealth. That's my point. When the firefighters put in for the grants to get extra hours and to put the time in and everything else, they specifically have to pull out the finance director. I used to be a selectman. I know we sat there going over the numbers over and over again on what it was going to cost for sick time, overtime, everything, because that could not be part and parcel of the grant. It
Right.
had to be paid for by the municipality. Believe me, I get that this is not easy. This is something you guys have not done, and it's one of those kind of a thing going on because it's just foreign. But I just want to start the discussion. I really do.
It's a good point for that. I don't
Going
believe honestly that the grant, the funding source and so forth really relates to this discussion here. As a person, it's strictly a wage and personnel person that or does not qualify or does qualify for the benefit.
Right.
Right, I
The
get.
funding,
yeah.
the funding issue,
Right.
the grant issue, separate issue,
Right,
has to be dealt with administratively.
Right.
Then come to us to tell us how that function will be handled in our bylaw.
but yeah, I was just saying that there's a number of different pieces that add this.
Agreed,
Yeah,
but as it relates just to this,
I got
I believe that, Lorraine hit the nail right on the head. And that is that the hours really dictate the fact
Right.
that the benefits are not available.
you.
And I think, however, the point that Mary Beth brings up is a good point. And I would like to carry that further, but not tonight.
Right.
Okay,
This is my first shot across the bow. I'm passionate about it, as you can tell. My feeling has always been that if someone is getting it and we are paying the piper on that contract for that union person, well, by God, we should be doing it for the person that's, working for the town as well, that's non-union. They have just as much skin in the game and they have just as much to win or lose working for the town of Kingston in terms of this particular issue. So I really want to see this parity, this loop closed, if you don't mind. That's all. Just start the discussion.
Okay, question,
Okay.
Lorraine.
I do have a question, and Mary Beth, I adore you, okay? I
We're
love.
still working on the Italian lessons, by
I
the
was
way.
gonna ask you about
Yes,
that, you know,
yes.
Tina and I. All right, I'm going to see Christina again, because I do love the doTERRA and the aromatherapy. Oh, my God.
Oh,
she's-
oh, yay.
Oh, God. So, and it's a question that's probably not gonna make you happy.
Go ahead.
The possibility that we're looking at employees with benefits under 20 hours a week, how would that impact the seasonal? How do we track the 6 months that somebody might do during the summer? And that's just a hypothetical. They work 6 hours. So does that mean that on the next summer, they have to bridge their service? I mean,
No,
is that
no,
what-
this is, every town has, what I've seen is you have to work over 800 hours a year. Okay, so this immediately takes your
We're not gonna get that.
seasonal.
Yeah.
No, but
Mary
I,
Beth,
she
we're
asked,
not gonna
and
get
no,
that answer.
she asked, and
Yeah.
I'm answering that. It's the
Yeah,
break
no,
off is the 800 hours. And so that's why your seasonal people are not included in this for a very specific reason. It just happens for the summer. I'm talking about part-time year round. That's what
Right.
I'm talking about.
under
Yeah.
20?
And I think that we just need to narrow down this language is what this is telling me.
Yeah.
Okay, so, good discussion. Thank you.
Thank you
You're
very much.
welcome. And thank you very much. I really
Tina, thank
appreciate
you.
it. And have a
is there
good meeting.
anything else we need to do regarding this matter, Tina?
I think as it stands now, you guys are just, you have to figure out if you want to change it, and if so,
Okay.
what year?
But if we take-
Yeah.
But if we take no action, on this,
Yeah.
discussion point that was brought up in this email.
Yeah.
It just
It's
sits on the
status
table.
quo, yep,
Okay.
status quo.
So I'm not gonna ask for any proposals,
No.
I'm not gonna ask for any votes. I'm just gonna end that discussion, move on to the next agenda.
Thank you.
item.
Very
Okay?
good. All right.
Good.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank
Have a
you.
great evening. Thank you. Yep. We'll be back. We're still looking. Okay, Lorraine, we're still looking for someone. Thanks. All right, bye.
Okay,
Oh, my gosh.
I tried to get to 6:45.
No.
So, I apologize,
No problem.
Lorraine. So,
Thank you.
I did text him to.
okay, good, thank you. No, it was a
Oh,
good
this is
discussion,
very
guys,
Florida.
and I appreciate the
It's
input.
difficult.
And I think it's, but I also, I tend to look at it like Lorraine does a little bit, and, our job is not to, I don't think our job is to go out and necessarily expand the law. It's to, or expand the bylaw necessarily, but interpret it to a certain situation, but stay within the framework of, that's how I looked at it.
Yeah.
You got, any input's always welcome. The fact that this said what it says.
Right,
To me,
To
it was
me-
very crystal clear.
and I think we've been allowed to still talk about this, but I think for me, like, when it was first negotiated and I brought it up, like, my thought was, yeah, we should be doing this because it probably will help us, but then the discussions that we had at the time, you're right, I mean, the bylaw encompasses a whole bunch of more positions than the union does. The less than 19 and a half, or less than 20 hours a week employees on the union who are getting PTO, their operating budget is paying for that, right? Grant position or not grant position, if you're telling me I have a inspector in the building department that works 19 hours a week, 15 hours a week, whatever, and all of a sudden now I have to start paying for them not to work. I don't, regardless of where it's
Well, they
coming
have to
from, I think
have-
it's just harder to,
It's one
It
of
touches a
those-
lot of.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
just, it's a rock and a pond and the ripples go everywhere.
mm,
So the problem is that, you can't sit here in 10
It's
minutes,
discretionary.
And figure
per
out-
town.
right, and figure out where all those ripples are.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't want to,
Yeah.
Right,
I want to
it
deal with it in a different,
Sure.
the next step.
Sure.
Let's move on, okay, so that
Okay.
takes, and let's move on to, discuss request of reclassification of the position of the wastewater superintendent, position rating and compensation study information. Okay, probably the best thing would be, Tina, maybe if you summarize where we're at, and then we'll open up the discussion with Elaine and then questions and so forth.
Sure. Elaine and the wastewater commissioners put through a reclassification for the wastewater superintendent chief operator. You had asked when it was first brought through if, what Keith's thoughts were on it. He wasn't really, too involved in the discussions, and so we have since met with him. You know, one of the concerns was,
Oh,
and here
There
he
he
comes.
is.
The town administrator has now entered the meeting. Thank you,
All
Keith.
goes downhill from here.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
We were just starting.
So-
We
Nope,
just
no
started.
fault.
Okay.
But, so when we looked at the JAQ that the commissioners completed, I think with Dave, it ranked really high. You guys saw the same thing. And so there was concern there about, you know, is this a fire police chief level? So there was discussions that we had with Elaine, we compromised to figure out where we felt it should end up. And that's where we're at.
And I believe it's at a current grade 12, and that you were comfortable if it went to grade 13. Where is Dave what level is he in 12?
He's in that position. The wastewater superintendent is in grade 12 right now.
What step?
What's
I
that?
don't know, but.
I wanna say off the top of
is
my
that
head, it was
what we're talking
right in
about?
the mid-range.
Okay.
It was, I wanna say it was 4 or 5 in that general area. It wasn't on the high.
Do you
end.
know Elaine by any chance?
I want to say it was a 3, because that's why it was
Yeah, it
pretty
wasn't-
much taken over as.
You know what the
I
amount
don't
is?
know how much he was making, he made like 95,000.
All right,
Yeah,
so-
that's what I looked up. Yeah.
So what I have, right, is he's at step 3 at grade 12. And just, I think there's 2 pieces to this, right? So the first question is, does this position get reclassified? That's
Mhm.
straightforward. And then based on that reclassification, if the salary is something that's different. So I don't, at this point, because we're just debating, or not debating, you guys are all just deciding if the position should be reclassified. I don't feel it's fair to bring the money part into it.
No, understood.
Yeah.
I was only asking to get
Yeah,
base.
understood.
That's all.
No,
Um,
he's not at the top where we're looking to move him, in part anyways, because he's maxed out. He's at the lower end of the range, lower mid end of the range, and the level of responsibility he has to operate that department was graded as such that would justify moving him from a 13 to a 12 to a 13.
I think that the way I'd like to handle this is 2 parts. One, I'd like to discuss the JAQs first.
Mhm.
Okay,
Sure.
with this side of the table, and then there'll be some questions I'm gonna ask about certain things, as why is this, that I'm gonna say, Elaine, can you?
Sure.
So, the first question I have is, and I asked this at the last meeting, do we have the base that GovHR used to come up with their number? In terms of, I believe their number was going to be somewhere between 640 and 710.
Yeah, I had
The
sent,
score,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had sent you over the comps. from
I saw
different
the comps,
towns,
yep.
And then,
and that's
their-
basically
their
how we came
number.
up with it.
Yeah.
Okay, that,
Well,
that's,
so 2 different things, right? So when GovHR did the JQ, they came up with a point value.
yep,
And so their point value was 690.
Yep.
690. And grade 12 is 680 to 710.
correct. Okay, so my question, and then I'm gonna have you guys ask a question, and we're just gonna go step by step. When Rob filled out his JAQ,
Yep,
and I added it up, it came to 640.
okay.
It didn't even make the 690. So how did we square that circle?
yeah.
So I know that there were some positions, so like we've talked about before,
Mhm.
when there's a compensation study that's done, or compensation in general. You know, my tagline about compensation is it's a science as much as an art,
Okay,
art as much as a science, right? And so what typically ends up happening with a compensation study is the statistical data and the numbered data is done. And then you have to start going through the process of, does that feel right? Does it not feel right? one of the things that we specifically did with this one is, we gave the department heads all of their departments, including themselves, and said, this is where the study has put your positions. Let us know what you think. So based on that, some of the positions, we looked at again to say, okay, does it make sense to rank that one a little bit higher, you know, based on their discussions with us or what have you. So that could be part of the reason why the numbers changed. So GovHR could have come up with 640 or whatever it was, 640. But then in speaking with Bob or Elaine, whoever you were discussing it with, we went back to the table to say, does it make sense that that's where they should be?
In this case, 690, Bob had 640. You guys said, you know what?
Right, and sometimes that's just one factor, like, you know, like a point factor off of one.
I'll tell you what I thought was a factor.
Yeah.
Was then I said, well, let me look at Matt's,
Yeah.
because they're the same level type of position in,
Yeah.
not, and again, not in terms of, but just in the, you know, the 10-foot view. You look at the wastewater
Yeah.
superintendent and the water superintendent, kind of quasi semi-equal in terms of it here. So Matt's score was 710. So then I see the wastewater 640 and the water superintendent's 710. And GovHR said 690. So that's how we got to 690, because you guys looked at both of these and, or they did,
Yeah,
and that's how we ended up there.
And the additional piece with this particular study, so, and I think you guys are aware, but so all the employees had the opportunity to be interviewed by GovHR. And so part of what they do, again, art science, is discuss the position with the person, and then based on their knowledge of working with multiple municipalities and understanding jobs as whole, because even the interviewers from GovHR were specific to that area,
Got
right?
it.
So police chief was the interviewer for police chief, kind of thing, they were for police department. So I do think that there was partly of, here's the numbers that came out, and now here's the professional person saying, well, you know, typically that is this much because their plant is this big, or whatever it is, so they knew the ins and outs of that.
Okay. And then when I saw, of course, Dave, his came out at 790. And then I said, okay, you know, what am I missing here in terms of the way the scores fall? And so then I asked the group to go do the same thing, and then we discussed it at this meeting. So, but there were a couple of things that were kind of interesting in terms of where the changes were. So that's why I was kind of glad you're here, because I wanted to ask, like, for instance, you know, Bob turned around and they were surprisingly similar on a lot of them, but there was a couple of them that were kind of off to the point where you just went, wow, why? So, and I think it's important. I don't have a problem with what you're suggesting, by the way, to go to level 15. I was
I want to work through it.
Right,
and
but
answer
the reason I want to have this discussion is because this ain't the first one that's gonna come here.
Or it's not the last one either.
Right, so the last one. So we're gonna have to have a procedure that we look at these things and come up with whatever the fundamental case is. So, but the one that caught me the most was job factor 3, independent judgment and decision making.
Okay.
Bob, the previous superintendent, said that if you look at it, and you can look at this one if you want to, he was high and moderate. Right, and when you go to David, he is 115.
Yep.
Which is very high and critical. And I'd like to know what's the difference? Okay. And you guys can come in anytime you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was one of the things that I was thinking.
So that's the most glaring one that I
Yeah,
saw. So
totally.
I just like to know, what am I missing?
Okay, as far as independent judgment, when there's something going on at the plant, during hours, off hours, that position's the person. That position, how much discretion they need to resolve a situation immediately. So we all know it's hazardous waste, everything else. So, it's not conferring with the commissioners. He has the authority to move forward because at the end of the day, he's responsible for the Department of, DEP, Department of Environmental Protection. He needs to adhere by their, standards and guidelines. So he makes the decisions. I mean, not to say he doesn't collaborate with other, people. There's calls to our engineers and things like that, but at the end of the day, he makes the decision which direction to take.
And if you look at these, again, this is Bob.
Yeah.
And you read this to this, I think you just summarized it.
Yeah.
All right, meaning that, in other words, what Bob said in his was that it could result in financial loss, it could result in delays in schedule, it could result. And what David's saying is that it could affect, it could create bodily harm, it could be a catastrophic loss.
It's a personal look of what the job itself.
Well,
So, and the level, the skill level behind each one,
Mhm.
right? Probably Bob was at the position for years, right?
Right.
It's second nature,
Well, and that's,
still, after doing it.
I was just gonna say, and that's it. We all know people's levels of, writing skills. And, some people will take it as matter of fact and things like that, and they don't, aren't able to articulate well enough using the right words or anything else. But to our previous superintendent, he'd been doing it so long, and when you're engrossed that way, you don't see it. You don't see what everybody else sees, what the commissioners saw. And that was the whole thing. When the study was done, everything was placed and everything. And with Brian coming on board as well, he has more of the technical knowledge than any of us, besides, Dave. And it gave another perspective as well. And that's where, Dave and I really spent a lot of time on this, more so Dave doing a lot of the research. And one thing that stood out even more was recognizing certifications as more than just a piece of paper.
Mhm.
It is in the individual fields, their degrees. It's like an associate's, a bachelor's, a master's degree. And that probably put this up over there as well.
In Bob's, where they talk about education,
Right.
I think it's also goes back to what Darlene said. I think that the person filling this out, this was all new to everybody,
Yes.
may have thought, what do I have? What, in other words, not what do I think this job needs?
Right.
Where, so I think David, it came at it a little differently, so
Right.
hence the different scores. Now, that's one, on the other side of it, I think that when you get to factor 6, where David is going to level 7 and Bob was at level 6, and the difference is the 15 points in the point system,
Which factor, I'm sorry?
factor 6.
Contacts with others.
Oh, okay.
Bob was level 6 and David's level 7.
Yeah.
And I'd say, you know what, I tend to believe it's more Bob in that case than David.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, it's, if you read this, it's, in matters of broader critical interest to the entire organization, that's him.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In terms of, he would have to come to you and you guys would have this issue of the problem in terms of how it relates to the whole organization.
So if I could just butt in real
Go ahead.
quick, couple of things, I guess. From sitting a million miles away in my chair up here on the second floor, my perspective of, I guess, comparing Bob and Dave. Both of them exceptionally talented in what they did, right? Bob helped build that plant up to what it is today. But my impression of Bob, fair or unfair, and again, I don't deal with him on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
they do. He, I believe, from my communications with him, with Bob.
Yep.
Was somebody who felt, I don't think he would make some decisions without talking to commission members, that he probably had the authority to make. And I don't know that he would have involved other departments as much as I think Dave is doing now.
Mhm.
If there's an issue with the sewer plant, Dave may come to me, but I've got no authority over it.
understand.
That's their issue, right? He may come to me and say, what do I think? He may come to me and say, do you think there's anybody else in the organization that can help, or whose opinion I could check with, or things of that nature. And I think he'll do that. Bob, I think Kingston is very much siloed. And the sewer department, the water department, are their own silos, general funds in their own silo, police department, fire department. And I think that Bob looked at it more of a silo, and that just may have been the way it always had been. I don't know. Where I think
And
Dave is.
I'm not saying you specific.
Sure.
I'm saying.
I'm not saying me specific
No,
either.
I'm saying whatever that, I don't know what the reporting procedure is, but the next authority. If it's the commissioners,
The
then it's you.
Yes.
Okay, I had, in my personal opinion, that's where I said this one was more close than this one. Hence, we bring the scores back a little bit when you, and I'm not trying to get the scores to match anything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I was trying to get it so that it would, just trying to understand.
Mhm.
And then, understand from the standpoint of seeing what goes on over there. I mean, I've done the tour as well. And say, okay, well, how is that position? Well, that position isn't going to turn around and speak for the entire organization. Okay, there's somebody above him. I point to him, but if it's really you, then that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mass general law, governs the operation pretty much. And it's, at the end of the day, it's the sewer commissioners, and it's not because we're elected officials,
Like
it's
statute?
just, yeah, it just so happens. Kingston sewer commissioners are elected.
Mhm.
Some, in the past, it was the selectmen when this first started, and the town administrator, whatever, so it's all governed by mass general law. That's why, at the end of the day, we're responsible for the operation of the plant. And it's, the superintendent's license that allows the plant to run.
Got it. Mhm.
So,
Okay,
Okay.
and again, all I was trying to, what I wanted to do in this exercise is so that we have some idea if this comes again, which it will.
Yep.
How we're gonna handle it. And I just started pulling out the documentation of looking at it and then getting the input from the people.
Yeah.
If I could just add one last thing,
Mhm.
when, and I think Tina brought it up already tonight, but just to maybe expand on it just a bit. Ultimately, we tried to involve as many people as we could in the process. So, and again, when they were involved in the process, they were on a more of a micro level, either me individually or my department. And what I think Tina and I tried to do is we sat down once the dust settled a little bit before the report was finalized and said, okay, are the positions that are of equal responsibility overall in the same grades as like positions with the same level of responsibility? So there certainly was some tweaking. Some positions went down because when we look at, knowledge, when we look at communication or who has to answer who type thing, does he speak for a department? Does he speak for the town? Does he speak for an enterprise fund, whatever it happens to be? We tried to look across the entire organization, not just the department. So I think that when we put this together, if it was flawed consistently. But we.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah. Nobody says we.
I don't think it's flawed,
No.
but you certainly have your opinion.
But if it was,
But if it was, what we tried to do was look at everything across the board.
Yes.
I think I don't have the knowledge or expertise that Dave has, but when the poop hits the fan, he's the guy, no pun intended, and yeah, so I don't think he's got the same, I would have been here tonight probably arguing against putting him at the same level as a police or a fire chief.
Hi.
They done?
no.
But I felt comfortable in having, after having up to sit down with Elaine and explaining, I think, where she was coming from and where Tina and I were coming from. I thought it was reasonable that after reviewing the documentation and having a fresh set of eyes, meaning Dave, look at the responsibilities that he's inherited, that felt as though that the 13 was probably a reasonable step to follow. Now, again, and they're gonna have to do the same process that the sewer commissions are doing now, but you may see 3 other wise men sit down in front of you, namely the water department, water commissioners at some point, looking for the same type of thing, because typically they've been, I think anyways, they've consistently been in the same grade. The difference in my mind, a little bit is, I've got 15 grades now rather than just 5. So there's an opportunity potentially, and there may be variations between the water and sewer departments that may justify the sewer superintendent being a bit higher. I don't know. So, but I felt like, and I'll be done, that I support the 13. I think it's reasonable. And I agree with you. You need to have a process because there'll be another one.
There are other ones already.
Are there? Okay.
One of these, one of these. There are requests, yeah.
Okay.
Or
Yeah,
others,
I mean,
not just
the new
water,
Position stuff.
Oh, new positions.
Yeah.
new positions,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
requests, okay. Okay.
Anybody else?
Well, no, I just want to make the comment that, you know, it kind of goes within the philosophy of like, drive them up from the bottom all up
Oh, yeah, I love
and
that.
reward at the end.
Big
I
fan.
mean, he's earned what he
Yeah.
is.
So-
And going out to see what we saw, yeah, I thought,
Yeah, again, you know, it's,
numbers are numbers.
and again, Keith, you and I have discussed this too.
Sure.
We've discussed it, we spent a lot of money on this study.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I want to make sure that, we use it.
We are.
And if there is tweaks that need to be done to it, then, and they are fair, then we address
Yep.
them and deal with them. You know, within the confines of the set.
I mean, we've had other employees have discussions about looking to modify the grade that they're in. And the first thing Tina does is pull out a JAQ
Mhm.
and they go and they fill it out and then we sit down and we review it. And if we don't support it, we don't support it. It doesn't move. This isn't the first one that's been brought to us this year by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I understand it.
I would
So-
imagine that the document that trumps everything is the job description.
I'm scared of
Second
it.
to that is the JQ.
Oh my God, how is she gonna tie this one?
When you
I
said
heard Trump
trolls,
and
I
it's-
went,
It startled me a little bit.
yeah, I was like, yeah,
Oh
she's
my
not.
God. No.
I almost need the
No.
defib you know.
No.
You would have had to have defib if he had showed up here, but that's another story.
Anyways.
No,
So the job description.
the job description, yeah, to me, the most important document that I haven't stolen from the White House
Mhm.
is the job description.
Right.
Then after that would be the JAQ.
Yep.
And one of the things we had, when we spoke with Dave the other day, we were there for all of that, but we took a few minutes to
Mhm.
talk to him
Mhm.
about language in the JAQs and the job descriptions and being very articulate and exacting. Because that's what we work for. We can sit there and say, I really like Dave, and I did. You gotta take the personal stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
out. I'm a
Agreed.
big fan of succession planning because I've seen it over the years fail
Mhm.
because there is no succession planning. Yeah, that to me is going back and forth. And the second question, I ran into some problems with some of his, David's JAQ because he was checking off 2 things.
There were a couple of them.
There were
Was
a
it?
couple of those, like, factor 4, for instance, level 3, and then he did a level 5.
Yeah.
So I did mine. And so those are
Oh.
things that those are things that catch.
See, I just have a 5.
Oh, you do?
Hmm.
I got a 3 and a 5. Factor 4.
It wasn't an 8 for a factor. So
Nah.
it's-
I just have one.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys-
Where the heck did that come from?
Are you looking at the right one? Is it Bob's?
Did
No.
you falsify
I
that?
have Bob on the hand.
Oh, you have Bob, that's not Dave.
That was,
Wow.
Bob is the one that did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that
Okay.
stinks
Yeah.
because now I went through the whole process and I'm got the wrong one.
Yeah,
no, that
this
was-
is it.
that- that
Never
was-
mind.
Yeah, and when,
Let's talk about our language.
yeah, when,
Scratch
the
that
JAQs are completed,
Okay.
if I see that, I do go back to them to be like, you need to, and I try to work with them to be
Yeah,
like, let's
I-
figure this out, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
we
you
had,
can't.
we had situations when this whole process,
Yeah.
that they would circle, in this, I don't know why it was 3 to 5, but like a 4 to 5.
Yeah,
Cause they say, we're really, it's kind of between those.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
we would decide,
Yeah.
there isn't in between, so we had to use our judgment to place them where we.
Yeah,
we-
'cause it ran into a couple of times. Well, doesn't matter anymore because everything I did was no win.
Anything from you, Darrell?
Nope.
Okay.
Fine.
Any other discussion?
If I could just add that, and we the commissioners talked about this at our last meeting, as far as a grade and its recommended step. And we recognize 14 is police chief, fire chief, which is why we are comfortable as well with a 13. After talking to Keith and Tina as well, we've come to a consensus on that. I mean, we're fine with the 13. And it was just, and you said not tonight, but it's just a matter of what step within that grade. I don't
What
know.
level?
Yeah.
Right, what level.
Mhm.
And we felt that because it did come out at a 14, that there could be some flexibility with what step it linked it at.
And, how are we handling that? Tina?
so that's one of the other topics I think for tonight is, or we talked about it in the past. So when we talked about people promoting into positions, we said, based on the bylaw, if it's 5%, why are we coming to you all? So I think part of the wording that you guys were playing around is, it has to be 5%. So, and again, this won't come into effect until July 1, so however you guys decide to play out what happens when someone gets promoted and a reclassification is considered a promotion, if you're gonna keep it as at least 5%, then the department head or whoever, the commissioners, whoever, has to come back to this group to say, this is why it should be more than 5%. There was
So-
discussion where it was, let's just keep it at 5%, and there is no discussion.
So
prior to that.
theoretically, well, and let's just talk theoretically, because I don't want to get nailed down. If it's 5% and he's at 12.3 at 95,146, and we just we add 4,500 to that, 5%, 4,700 to it, it would put him up at about 13.2.
Right, so what
Okay, which would be 100,820 would be the level based on the graph where he would fall.
right, so what I did out was, so again, so for FY 24, Dave's rate of pay is step 3, grade 12. There was no reclassification or COLA. For fiscal 25, he'd go to a step 4, which is 98,774. So the starting point for the FY budget, we recommend to do the same. So we say the 98,774, which is what he would have gotten. We add the 5%, that brings 103,708. And then in grade 13, the closest step to that without going under is step 3 again, but it's 104,661. And then if you guys decide to do the 3.5% COLA.
Okay, so it's not 2. I was just using the hypothetical. No.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, that's what we've done. Like we've said, okay, so obviously everything happened July 1. So what is the person expecting July 1? That's the starting point. Add the 5%, put them in the new grade, wherever it lands.
Okay.
And then again, in this case, if wage and personnel does 3.5% like the rest of the town, that grade 13 step 3 actually goes to 108,324.
So as far as we're concerned, the sewer commissioners, the town administrator is willing to accept the grade 13.
Okay.
Step to be determined based on budget. And I think that's the type of a motion that I would expect to be put on the table. If we want to approve this.
Can I just ask for clarification, please? I apologize for lengthening this. When does the step? When is the step ultimately determined?
Well, if you go to, what we're trying to do is stay within the bylaw. The bylaw says 5%.
So the bylaw says a minimum of 5%.
Minimum.
Okay, so I guess in my simple mind,
Mhm.
it sounds like if you take Tina's HR math,
Stop.
I would have a calculator. But if you take her math, he stays at a step 3, 13.3, is that what you said?
Well, he happens to stay at the step 3.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
But so if he goes to 13, you give him the 5%, the
Yeah.
closest step is a step 3.
Yep.
I guess my question to the wage personnel board is, why can't that be determined tonight? If in fact you're willing to make that sort of a motion, and the only change that could occur would be if the salary scales were modified because of a cost of living adjustment or
Right.
some kind of the future, but
The same thing could happen if we just said we approve it to be placed into grade 13, subject to the final budget based on the step,
okay.
given a 5%.
I just wasn't sure, you
I
know,
was trying to give you the flexibility.
okay, and I'm fine with that. I apologize. I just want to make sure I understood. that When we walk out the room tonight, if there's a positive vote, I just want to make sure I'm meeting the expectations of the sewer commission and the.
Because what I heard Tina say is between 3 and 4. So it can't be, well, the numbers, if there's a 3.5%, it falls, and the number falls, it falls somewhere between 3 and 4. And the closest step is 4.
Hold on.
That's why I said,
Understood.
I was
Okay,
trying not
stop.
to nail that
My
down.
interpretation would be
So-
that step 3 would go up 3.5%. So it'd stay in the step. three, but-
It is a step 3,
Yeah,
right?
that would be my
It is.
question.
But
So, right,
I'm
yeah.
happy to, I just want to make sure that when I walk out and when the sewer commissioners walk out, they understand the expectations, so they can have a conversation with their employee and I'm not misunderstanding that I need to come back again, or they need to come back again and say, when do we get this, we're ready to choose a step. And if you're comfortable with that, I'm fine with it.
No, I'm, as long as you guys are comfortable saying that it's gonna be level 3,
Step
level
three.
13, step 3,
But you're voting to recommend.
I'm voting to recommend that, okay? So that, and I'm okay, so,
I'm over here
So can
poking
I-
at his leg.
So the step 4 that you, I think, referenced
Yeah.
was if nothing were to change, you'd go to a step 4 for fiscal 25. So that's the starting point we used.
Yeah.
To add the 5% to, and then place that in grade
Hmm.
13. And that happens to be even with the 3%, 3.5% COLA step.
Okay, okay, just a really quick question. I am not comfortable voting personally because I was working out the wrong JAQ. So I would have to abstain. Because I'm not comfortable that I was in the right documentation.
okay.
I'm walking around with Bob Awning and I don't even know how I ended up with
No,
that.
it was part of the packet because it was what was
Yeah.
last done that got it to where it is on the. on the
Right, and I
thing.
apologize, but I'm not comfortable not having. I didn't work that one, I
Sure.
worked another one. But I don't think it's all that different from what David is now. Not really, but I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm so sorry.
All right, what's your feeling? Are you comfortable with the
Yes.
documentation, you comfortable with the recommendation?
Yes.
Then I would take a motion,
Can I just,
go ahead.
I'd just like to add that the sewer commissioners are recommending a step 7 within a grade 13. And the reason for that is the fact that it did come out at a step 14, at grade 14, which the minimum of grade 14 is 141,000. He's got 10 years in service with the town,
Mhm.
in the industry, not the industry, but within the operations of the plant. The assistant, this year, him and the assistant both made the same amount of money. The assistant is made, yes, the assistant superintendent,
And that's for the overtime that the assistant gets, the foreman,
right, made,
so the beeper hours and everything that
Yes.
that Dave doesn't have anymore.
right, the assistant made 95,000 and the superintendent made 95,869. So and I don't know if you saw this email we had sent out on why we were recommending it. The main factor, okay, the commission has discussed the original step placement. Dave was originally placed as step 3 when he was promoted to a grade 12. Documenting the position using JAQ illustrated the original placement of Dave at a step 3 in the grade 12 may have warranted a higher step. At the current salary, they're both together. The assistant and the superintendent's salaries aren't too far apart. And the fact that because it fit at a 14, we're comfortable with a grade 13, as we're calling it, a flexible step. So, and the vote came to recommend a step 7. So just
So
putting
go with
that
the
on the table.
13, step 7.
A grade 13, a step 7,
Versus what,
a step 3.
Stuff.
4.
With the 3.5. No,
With the
step
3.5.
3, step 3, with the 3.5.
So
So-
that's,
So my
Could-
comment on that, again, it's not a Dave thing at all, but it's very common, unfortunately, that when you work overtime the way the laborers do, a lot of them make more than the department.
It's not just no wastewater.
No, I understand. I expected that, but, and I'll just give you my take.
Yeah, yeah.
My take was, when I came in here tonight, I wasn't moving at all,
okay.
okay? Because of the study, because of the numbers, so I was, by doing the exercise and seeing all the differences and then listening to you and so forth, I was moved to go there. I'm having a real hard time moving to go there. So, and if I had to put a vote on it tonight, I would vote against it. That's because to me, that's a huge jump. The study can't be that far off. And and I'm predicating my opinion
Yeah.
just on that. I lived through this study.
Oh,
You know,
I'm sure.
just like you guys have done, and you've done with the sewer, I know exactly
Yeah.
you know, walk a mile in my shoes.
Mhm.
And, so I would have a real hard time doing that personally,
And it,
based on everything I heard tonight. So if I was going to make a recommendation, then I'm in favor of moving into a step to a grade 13. I'm not in favor of moving all the way to a step 7. So if that's where we're sitting, I think that's gonna kill it personally. I'd like to not do that. So I'd like to see if you might want to reconsider. Because I don't want to kill it for that reason.
okay.
So that's just me talking to you, as I like to say.
Is the plan to vote tonight? Because we have a commissioners meeting on,
Well, I was trying to get it resolved so you could have a positive.
okay,
So that's why I was asking Darlene, and I was respecting Lorraine to abstain. So Darlene and I could vote for it. I'm willing to listen to whatever motions put on the table, but I'm telling you what my thought is.
can I be like Shark Tank?
You can do whatever you want.
And
First
say-
of all, you know, you do know that I respect your opinion 1,000%. So I wanna hear it.
And I understand that this is about a position. So,
Right,
So,
not a person,
yeah,
not a person.
Agreed. What would be entertained if, for a step over a 4?
I don't,
Personally,
So-
Lorraine, I'm not above it. And I wish I was.
To be clear,
Yeah.
it's step 3.
Step 3,
Okay,
yes.
that's why I
Okay,
kept saying
and
that.
step 3.
Just in general for history, when positions have gotten reclassified and the person is obviously in it, they follow the 5%. It's never just the minimum, it's the 5%.
Right.
Sometimes what ends up happening, as you guys know, is when people get promoted, That's kind of where
Mhm.
this is the reason why they should be at a higher step thing happens.
And that's it, going by the language in the bylaw, it says a minimum of 5%.
Right.
It says a
Yeah.
minimum of 5%. Typically, that has been what we've done. Again, it's nothing against anybody. It's the position. I'm gonna see 4 more of these coming. Okay, and then they're gonna say, it's not the person, it's the position. For this position, you guys were willing to do this. How come?
No, I understand you need a process. You
And,
need-
and all
I
I'm
do
saying
understand.
is that I can't get there with this process. So I can get to step 3, like grade 13 with the process, and I totally understand it and I could defend it. I would have a hard time defending step 7. And the difference between them is about 20,000. Roughly,
Where did my thing go? Oh,
I
it's over
can't
there.
find
it's right here, roughly 20,000.
Yeah.
15.
Oh, there we go.
Add the 3.5 to it, that's why.
Yeah.
And I'm just, again, from my point of view, trying to deal with the entire organization as a whole, this position was never a 14. In my opinion, based on the level of responsibility he has versus other department heads and their levels of responsibility and like.
Could we split the difference?
I
mean,
I would,
say-
honestly, I would love to, but if you were at this meeting that we had when they brought a couple other positions, this was not so long ago. And the same thing happened, the glasses come off and I turned, and I said, there's gonna be a time that something's gonna come across here. And I'm just gonna say no, because of this study. You spent a lot of money, you put us through a lot of hell, you
Yep.
put and not you personally.
No, I understand.
You collectively put us all through this. We had to go through it. We're now on the other side. And the last thing I'm gonna hear is, now you're telling me it's no good. And I just can't accept it. So, if it's not the person, I just don't think, I think moving this position to 13 is a very equitable understanding based on the fact that, yeah, you guys made a lot of good points, $70 million with the assets down there. We've spent a lot of money in the town. It's a burden on the tax base, but the tax base is gonna benefit from it. You're an enterprise fund, you guys can afford it. I get all that. But at the same time, it's the whole town and it's the next guy coming through the door that I have to worry about too. And I just want to do this, I just want to be consistent.
And I understand that, and I just, on this side, need to just.
Why
try to
step
strip-
7? Tell me why you want
Yeah.
step 7.
That's it.
That's what I want to get.
Okay, step 7, because he was a step 7 in the union position,
The old,
the old
right,
union
right,
position.
okay,
And because the assistant superintendent pay scale and the current superintendent pay scale are really close when you come into the overtime and everything else. And it's not that the assistant, the superintendent works as many off hours as the assistant does. So it's parity, it's parity. And that was it. And in the fact that we're talking wastewater. If it's wastewater, it's immediate, it's dangerous, it's hazardous. If it's clear water, it's clear water. And and the fact that the certifications be recognized as degrees is a part of it, because the certifications a lot of times are more intense, more complicated. I mean, this particular position needs to know chemistry, biology.
Mhm.
There's a lab at the facility. It's just, I know, and
I'm well aware of it, I understand.
and those are the points where I see that it may differ from another position in town, recognizing it's not a police or a fire chief.
Right, and I'm not
The
saying
foreman
that,
needs to have those same certifications,
Right.
right?
But the superintendent needs more.
Well, especially if
That's
the
not
goal,
what I said.
okay, we have a whole nother breed of something out there, you know what I mean? That's constant monitoring. So this whole thing with the you know, these, proposition, the whole survey itself, I mean, it could be changed because of some specific reason. In this particular case, we have this whole situation that we have to work through. So it's a higher level. He's gonna classify himself at a higher level, David is, because of the fact of what he's dealing with going forward. So, I mean, I would say that I could see what you're saying in terms of the grade 7. Because of
I-
the high level needs right now,
And I see
so,
the fact that we recognize it as a step 13 and not a step 12 is recognition of that importance and that intensity of, the position. I don't have any problem at all with that. The assistant position with the overtime hours, et cetera, and so forth, that's a union position. And the superintendent's position is an exempt position. What happens when God forbid, things get tight and we cut the overtime? Okay, the assistant's not gonna get it anymore. Or they're gonna have to find a way, or they're gonna cut people, or there's gonna be something. We just happen to have the ability to do it right now. It's a big jump.
Would a 5 be palatable?
You are the best.
you are 11.
Negotiation, always.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
that's
firm
okay.
in it for it, personally. If you convince these two, 3 rather, you convince these two, great, but I thought coming to a step 13 and going to a 3, I thought I was, considering the fact that I started really at 0 when I walked in here tonight. Because I was gonna fight about all those numbers and say, how can this guy be at 640 and this guy be at 780? You guys don't have a clue, blah, blah, blah. But I really took my time to listen to what you said. I read all those documents that you guys submitted. I thought you did a really good job on it. I just think that jumping it that far for me is just a bridge too far. So,
Maybe
I
next
see,
year.
see.
As to the certifications and the licenses, just like the previous meeting, I had black and white bylaw, that's it, I'm a textist, but when we, rank an education, there's information in there that provides us with a point system that we do acknowledge certifications. But it doesn't say how many, and it doesn't require that we do, so we have to work with the bylaw and we work for the study and the results. But there's nothing in there that says this guy, or this particular person gets more points in the analysis because he has 4 master's degrees.
if he had 4 licenses, he would get 10 points
He'd
for
get
each
10 points,
each
yeah.
additional license.
Yeah, that was all, just
Okay.
so that there is understanding that, we don't have a lot of flexibility. There's not a lot of interpretation for us to do other than to deal with black and white. And we're not in the union, and as much as people have their funny feelings about unions, some people really love them, some don't, but we're not in the union, we're in region personnel, and it's hard. It is hard. But I wish I had a right stupid thing, but I don't think it was all that much different than the mistake, but there you go, thank you.
And I say a 5 because of the 10 years of service.
Yeah.
Just, anyway.
Negotiator Nellie, that's your new name.
It's a good thing. right?
So,
Yeah, no harm, no foul.
so,
So you can always come back. You can always come back.
When's your next meeting?
It hasn't been decided.
Yeah,
yet, but
we have
February,
to talk about it.
because it's on a holiday.
I just wasn't sure if you wanted to come back, so you had 3
So,
votes, that's all.
yeah, yeah.
They can work without the.
I know they can.
But you could look at it between now and the next meeting and decide.
This is true.
And it could go the other
Nothing
way.
is gonna change anyway, because it's not gonna happen until July 1.
No, but they want to get their issue done and tell their
Oh.
employee and so forth. So
So-
that's the only
And
reason
the
why I
oth-
was trying.
The other thing I just wanna,
Gotcha.
to keep clarity, so these are bylaw changes, and so the bylaw change is the reclassification. The salary part is, that's a personal employee situation, so I think if you're gonna vote on, should this be a 13? That's fair, it can happen, it's the salary part that is not part of the, I mean, people don't normally just come to say someone should get more money.
No, I
You know?
understand. That's why I was trying to say I'm willing to reclassify the position
Right,
and, as a 13, and I was hoping that's the motion we would have. I didn't want to go to. And I think quite honestly,
I'm sorry.
that's all right. I think, no, but I think quite honestly, given maybe you might want to have some more discussion, et cetera, that we just leave it as, somebody put a motion on the table to approve the position as a, grade 13, subject to, the, final step based on,
but the step shouldn't be part of it.
no, no,
Voting on
no,
the-
based on the bylaw.
Grade 13, right?
Grade 13 and the remuneration will be based on the bylaw. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm not saying step anything. I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
based on the
gotcha.
bylaw.
Sorry.
That's,
And leave it on the table, and then we can finalize, if we need to vote exactly what that has to be, then we'll come back and do it. If we don't, then we leave it to the administration side. But if you're asking me what I would do,
The step would not go to town meeting.
No.
right, correct. So, what I would ask for is a motion on the table to approve the wastewater superintendent's position to be reclassified from a grade 12 to a grade 13 is the motion I'm asking for. My advice would be, if you agree with it, to say so moved.
Darlene, was that
So
like
moved.
Darlene?
That was
Yes.
Charlie. Can I please have a second? You can put the second.
I was gonna say, I could do a second on this.
So you're giving us a second.
Yep.
So I will now call for the vote. Darlene? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Lorraine?
Abstain.
Jim? Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Elaine. It was good to see you again.
There's a whole bunch. I don't know how much you have in here.
Okay.
I don't know how deep they're gonna go into the mail, which is some of the bylaw stuff.
So what?
So there's a mail section and.
So the whole mail
those-
section with all the
that's
bylaws.
Changes, but I didn't think you're going deep
You don't
dive
need
into
to
that.
worry.
I just need to go finish up upstairs. I can come back down. I'm happy to come back down.
I review a section 7 compensation. I don't think we need to keep for that.
Nope.
Nope.
And the bylaw amendments are step 5. If you think, if we want to do it, we can do it, or we can, it's the mail, we can make it part of the next meeting too.
Whatever you want to do.
So why don't you go do what you gotta do and then come down when you're.
Okay.
We're still
I think they're
here.
finishing up.
All right.
Okay.
What other meeting are you here for?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, all of those people?
No, that was school committee.
Oh,
Very popular townhouse tonight.
I know. When I pulled around the corner, I
I did
saw the
too.
90,000 cars. I'm like, what's going on? We haven't voted. All right,
Can I just, can we take maybe about a 5-minute?
sure.
So,
Bio break.
yeah, I'd like to use the bathroom, if you don't mind.
No,
Is that right? So I'd just like to adjourn for 5 minutes.
okay.
Alright, so I'm just going to,
Yeah. All right. I'll be right back.
if I go down.
Thank you, Jim.
If you mute it,
Hi,
I don't
Kyle.
think
How are
so.
you?
I'm well, and yourself?
You staying out of trouble?
I don't think
Trying to
so.
go.
Trying to command all the water and, yeah, the water, all the money.
I'm in retirement, so.
Okay, now we're all.
Wage personnel meeting is back
Tina,
in order.
Yes.
would I, well, could I bother you and ask you to get the correct JAQ for David Walsh?
Yeah, I think I have it.
It's, I don't know how it ended up.
Let me go make a copy.
Yeah, oh, I can wait.
Elaine sent it.
Never know who's involved. Never know who's on
Yeah, Lane sent it in. Oh, wow.
I have one, yeah.
Okay,
You can have mine, I got one. I'll just give it.
well, I can shoot with all your notes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's done.
Look at it.
Hold on.
You can look at them, they're fine.
No, I've already got some scores in
Section
one,
7.
even the one that I wasn't sure about on the superintendent, I came up with 685. And that's on Ron JQ on top of it.
Mhm.
So I was in the ballpark, but not enough to be comfortable to say, look at this.
No
All right, so do you want me to send it? or-
No, I'm gonna deal with this. Thank you
Okay.
very
Share
much.
to share, but
All right.
We're sharing.
So next item on the agenda, review new wording for section 7 compensation D promotion. I got it, I printed out the word, and I'm printing many things out, but I printed this out. And I saw what you did.
Well, that's right, but you came up with this wording.
Do
Okay.
you want me to read it?
yeah, because I
Everybody
don't know
want
if
me
I have the right one.
Okay, so, section D regarding promotion, section 7 compensation, letter D, promotion. An employee receiving a promotion to a vacant position or to a new position as defined in section 6 shall, upon assignment resulting from such promotion, receive the rate in compensation grade of the vacant or new position, providing a 5% increase. And then you deleted if a 5% increase causes a jump in salary of more than 2 steps, then promotion shall come before the board for
Oh,
approval.
no, you added that.
Okay, I couldn't quite tell how this happened.
See, it's interesting. When I printed that, this is how it looks.
Okay.
I think we just have different versions of words, so.
Oh, no.
This is, right, this was the
Oh,
sentence
this was
that
where
you
you
were,
changed.
that you
Yeah,
wrote.
this is.
Remember you were going to email it to me and you didn't, but then you said that was what you.
Yeah, after we talked about it. So basically what it's saying is, under the old section 7, you would,
This is what we-
you would receive a rate and compensation grade of the vacant or new position, providing a minimum of a 5% increase. That comes
Yes.
out and it says, if it says providing a 5% increase, the word minimum of a comes out. And it says, if a 5% increase causes a jump in salary of more than 2 steps, the promotion shall come before the board for approval. That is the proposed language you can all look at.
Now, did you want?
Yeah,
minimum
I've got
of
this one.
Well, you crossed it out, so apparently I must have. Well, based on
Well,
what she did was
it
she used the recording. And we talked about it with the recording.
Yeah,
I think eliminating the minimum is very clarifying.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
yes, at that meeting,
Mhm.
must have been November, you said you would draft the wording, so that's what we did.
Would 5% ever be one step?
It could be.
Okay.
Tina, you want to take a look at that?
Yeah, I
Thank
know
you.
I've seen it.
I know.
So the original email that I sent to you guys had a couple of different areas of,
Yeah.
suggestions. But I know I've seen it.
But Jim just came up with the wording for that one, right, because I pulled out your memo as well.
Yeah, because this is
You had
from,
different things.
this is from you, Tina. The
the
listing
6th,
ones,
November
yeah.
6th, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so, an employee receiving a promotion to a vacant position or to a new position assigned. Right, and part of this was to address right now, the entrance rate, which is the compensation G. The practice is then if over step 3, the board is called in. So my thing was, when someone's getting promoted or put into the new position and they are following the 5% and it's 2 steps or it's over a step 3, do they still have to come if they're following what's already in there?
Right, but you didn't come up with the new wording for G. And for section
Yeah.
11 F, in section 15A, I could just come up with drafts of those
Right. Right, my,
sections based on what you discussed with Tina, but you never addressed G.
right, and that was, that, I wasn't, when I was bringing up the compensation part of it, I listed G because, I'm sorry, I listed D because G refers to it.
Right.
And so what I was saying was the practice has been, if it's above step 3, we come here. But if we're following the 5% rule, do we even have to come here?
And all I'm saying in that is that if the 5% rule results in more than 2 steps,
Mhm.
it comes here.
Okay, yeah,
So
I think-
that's really all.
but not a step 3 thing, more of.
No,
a-
not a
if it's
step 3,
above- Yeah,
Yeah,
it
just if
moves,
it's so-
in other words, right now, it's above a step 3, what we're saying is it moves 2 grades,
If it's
Mhm.
reclassified.
Right.
two
then it makes-
steps.
So I'm sorry, again, I continue to be the slow guy in the room, so I apologize, if I could. So how is it different than what we just talked about?
no, right, so, but here's the other piece, sorry, here's the other piece, so. It's hard to say 2 steps, because if someone's getting promoted into it, they might be coming from the union.
Right.
Those steps don't count,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? So what we've done is, I want this person to promote, I want them to come in at step 7. Okay, we gotta go, or we wanna hire the person at step 7. There's no 5% thing in that scenario.
Right.
So, and I'm just gonna use Dave's, when Dave originally promoted, if we had followed the 5%. And everyone was cool with that, employee, department head, whatever. We shouldn't have had to come here, right?
Mhm.
But there's no way to say it's above 2 steps, because there was no
Correct.
step to begin with.
Yeah, that's one of the things that this is demonstrating today. Keep in mind, the whole idea of this is discussion of this thing, we're not
Yeah,
deciding. anything.
Sure.
But this is a perfect example of why the
That's why-
bylaw has got to get changed.
So I don't know if it makes sense if what you're suggesting would make more sense to, that it addresses, I think, Tina's question about, a position that's out of wage personnel and moving into wage personnel. Is it a percentage that we should be looking at? If it's more than 5%, it's more than 10%, whatever that percentage is, rather than steps, because in many cases, the steps are not gonna equate
Right,
or
Right.
correlate, right?
but also
So-
you could have another study and if you're talking steps, it could change, whereas
Mm-hmm.
if it's a percentage, it could cover amongst.
Yeah, so that's why I'm just
Maybe-
wondering if there's a different measure.
Definitely, this is the stab, that's why we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and so I just wonder if it should be a different, if there's some certain other type of measurement that would be used that could go across unions and a percentage
Well, so I think,
of the hourly wage or the annual salary, whatever it happens to be, might do that.
yeah, and I think that's what it would be, right? Because like in the scenario I gave for Dave for the reclass. It was, here's what he would have been at the 5%, it comes to 101. But the closest step to that is 104. If this was just a vanilla situation, no reclass or whatever, we shouldn't have had to come here for that, because it followed the process already. And I'm just thinking of the different scenarios. Now, the thing with a new hire who has never had a step, there's no way to do the 5%. So that would still. have
That's
to
why
be
it was
an
above
over-
its grade 3, in the old language.
So I think then, for
But
I'm
promotion,
great in step 3, I agree.
there wouldn't be a class, I mean, so I thought this was, if you're moving from one classification to
This is
another,
for
if you're a new
promotion.
hire, you're not, yes, but if you're a promotion coming from the outside, there is no old step.
right, there's no promotion, that's a hire,
Because you're not
right?
promoting.
Right.
promote.
Right, so the promote for the way the wage and personnel bylaw is, promotion and reclass are treated the same. So I think for the 5% rule, for those 2 scenarios, I think that's very vanilla. It has to be 5%. If for some reason you want more than 5%, then it comes here. Right? But I think if you also just say it's 5% and that's it, then that's it. I think for
Yeah.
the entrance rate, which is G, new appointments shall be paid at the minimum entrance rate, and that's the one that we're also bringing people in at anything above step 3. So maybe that's the one that gets changed. So I think first question is, for promotions and reclassifications, do you want to say 5% and that's it? Because if that's the case, then that's the case, and no one has to come here because it's always gonna be 5%. And then if it's entrance rate, then it's above step 3, come here. Because you have nothing to start,
Right, step three.
right, because you have nothing to start with, because the person's coming from the outside. Or another,
And when you say 5%, that's a 5% increase in,
what they
Wage.
currently make, yeah. So to be promoted or in a reclass, you're gonna at least get a 5%, but because of where the numbers always fall, it's a little bit more.
well, when you're moving from one grade to another and placing another step, it's always gonna.
Right, but if it's, I'm coming from
Most
a
of the time.
union.
What about COLA?
Yeah,
Well,
COLA
right,
doesn't come into play, I don't think, when you're
As long
giving.
as
a
it
prom-
doesn't.
When
Well,
when you're
but-
giving a promotion, I don't think it'll come into play. The only time COLA comes into play is when they're adjusting the salary ranges at
Okay.
whatever was approved at town meeting,
right,
Yeah,
so.
right?
Which I'm
Am
fine
I
with.
right? I mean, I
So-
don't, maybe I'm wrong.
just- I'm only asking.
No, I
Yeah.
think
But-
that's right.
But so let's take the scenario, right? So because everything happens July 1 for wage and personnel, you guys reclassify a job. It's not gonna take effect until July 1, at the same time the COLA comes in.
Mhm.
So if we're saying, like we did with Dave, whatever numbers I said, you know, what he would have been plus 5% in the new grade is step whatever, okay, fine, it's gonna be step 3, because that's the 5%. But now step 3 in the upcoming year is an additional 3.5%. That's just how it is. The promotion is, I've hired someone, the foreman is now becoming the super. That has to be 5%. That comes into effect right away. COLA happens in July.
When
1st.
the rest of it takes
Yeah.
over. Okay, that's fine. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like leaving it, if a 5% increase causes a jump in salary, adding that last sentence. I like it there as a safety net.
If a 5% increase, creates a jump in salary of more than 2 steps,
Right.
what we're trying to do is eliminate that.
Right, because for a promotion or reclassification, it doesn't matter what step they're starting on. That's, so I think for that D, compensation D,
Mhm.
you guys just have to decide, are you gonna say a minimum of 5% or 5%, and that's it?
Yeah, that's where I think, in other words, we just take out
So
the word,
just take out the sentence
take the sentence out and
and leave
then,
it at a 5% increase.
and
flat.
take minimum of a
Minimum.
5.
Okay,
So that's that,
Okay.
and then
That's
G,
fine.
The last one.
the G,
Okay, I don't have my copy
Oh.
anymore.
Well, you want to look,
like,
Oh, hers is in color. Yeah, she can have-
mine is prettier.
All right, so what are we doing? We're just deleting the last sentence?
Last sentence
Okay.
and leaving minimum A. I like that. Yeah, because
Okay.
you don't need that.
That's fine.
and
Special.
the
Okay.
minimum part is taken out, so
Right.
5%.
Okay.
So
This
for
is all
what's in
promotion,
here
which happens
somewhere.
during the
Uh-huh.
year,
It's in here. somewhere.
reclassification, what's effective 7/1, 5%, 5%.
I know, so-
Entrance rate, so
There you
someone is being hired off the streets.
I have no
What the
thought.
practice has been is if
Just-
you want someone hired to step 3, it comes here.
Mhm.
So that just, my suggestion would be to clarify that, because the practice is that.
And what would you like the practice?
Clarifying to say if it's above step 3. Because that's not in here right now. Right
Okay,
now it
but-
says,
but Let me ask,
Yeah.
what do you want?
what do you mean?
Like, what is?
what check and balance, so I guess my question, would be, what is check?
Check and balance is important, I
Okay, so
agree,
what check and balance?
But-
who's
but-
gonna make
but
this
more
comfortable?
important, but also. You guys are up the ones catching the bullets.
Yeah.
You know, what is it 4? Is it 5? What works for you better? Is 3 okay?
So here's my 2
Yeah.
cents. and
That's what I
again,
wanna
she
hear.
feels a little more than I do, I guess, but my 2 cents is, I think it really varies from position to position.
Right.
And, you know, the situation we're facing, and I'll give you a couple of examples. I can't hire a truck driver. I got 2 positions, they've been open for months, can't hire them. We've advertised for a finance director, we had 3 candidates. We ultimately interviewed one, that person, washed out. We've re-advertised the position, we've gotten 2 or 3 other applicants that have come in that are not, in my humble opinion, potentially worth talking to. We're fortunate that, Carol's willing to stay on, and it's going to continue to do that for the time being, but the long story short, I guess, is, I may, if I feel comfortable that the person can walk in the door, and do the job well. Based on the lack of individuals pursuing a finance director position and the number of finance director positions open right now in Massachusetts, but really even in this commutable area, you know, it may become a bit of a bidding war. So, I think it's hard to sit here and say it's absolutely step three. You know, and when we do try to hire somebody, I've got to be able to look everybody else around that department head table and say, I can justify what I'm doing. And that's kind of my litmus test for me is, I know the market's challenging, but I need to be able to look at everybody who's been here is probably deserving of something more than they're getting right now in their mind, and say to them, I had to do this, and I need to be able to feel comfortable that I'm not going to create an internal, some turmoil internally because somebody in some positions coming in and whatever level they're at is significantly higher than maybe somebody who's been here a while.
So
Can I make it-
does 3 help you with that?
Can I make a recommendation?
Absolutely.
Sorry. So here's what I'm thinking. If it's a department head, anything above step 5 would come here, and I say step 5 because almost, if not all of them, at a minimum, you have to have 5 years of experience to be a department head in any of our job descriptions. So I think the middle of the 10 steps makes sense. We don't have to offer them the 5. You don't agree?
Well, just again, it all kind of intertwines, because now I'm back to 5. I mean,
Right.
you know what I mean? So again, it's just kind of, it's funny how it all kind of comes full circle.
Well, I'm just saying,
that's
again,
it.
I'm not
That's all.
saying
The
you
way I
have to
look at it,
offer
I
the 5.
understand that.
Does
but-
3 give you cover on some situations? Does 3 hamper you on some situations?
Yes,
And
Yes.
but does the cover help, I would more than help the hampering?
so.
Or does the hampering hurt more than you're getting out of the cover?
Yeah,
So when we've made offers to people, and I've had to say to them, there are, I'm gonna have to go through 2 steps to get now I don't have to get the approval of wage and personnel, I have to get their recommendation, right?
Mhm.
And we tell the board of selectmen that wage and personnel either supports coming in at a grade 5 or they don't. I don't think anybody's walked away saying, I don't wanna wait that long, or I don't wanna have to go through that process. I don't know that anybody's walked away from that. So I can't tell you that it's hindered me, honestly. And I'm not gonna come here asking for something more than 3. Frankly, if I can't sit
Right.
and look at you 3 in the face and Mr. Pike in the face and
No, we have a
ultimately the
wage
department
personnel
heads
Right.
that work with me and have, a comfort level there. So,
I
I don't
think
know
what
what-
I'm hearing is 3 is leave it at 3, but let's put it in the bylaw.
yeah, I mean, it has not been a hindrance.
Okay, so
Um,
let's, so that's what I'm hearing.
okay.
So it says the practice has been, so what I'd like to do is create some language that says entrance rate and new appointments appointed to positions in the classification plan should be paid at a minimum rate except as may be authorized by the board or town administrator pursuant to section 5 of the bylaw.
So-
Somebody's gonna come up with some language for that.
Except,
And again, I don't want to belittle or not belittle, sorry. I don't want the discussion about the sewer superintendent to be the example we continue to use over and over tonight.
No,
that's because
No,
she's.
but because I'm not using him for the
No.
position. I'm just trying to make a point.
I understand.
So,
More importantly, I just wanted to gauge what your thoughts were.
I appreciate that. I just wanna, I mean, so to Tina's point, if you are going to become if you are gonna be offered a position as a department head,
Mhm.
the position description typically says you need to have 5 or more years and or educational
Yeah,
experience, blah, blah, blah. So I'm assuming, in all honesty, I guess I'm assuming, I guess I'm just looking at you, know you're wrong, or I guess I'm right.
Mhm.
if a person internally applies, they may not have the time and position,
Mhm.
but they have the, and other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does that equate to,
So that would be the 5% thing. So if someone's.
so is it a 5% thing, or are we a step 5?
Well, see, that's what I
That's
mean.
where-
Yeah, I think.
I understand, but again, when I walk out of here, I guess, or at some point, I need to know how to apply this stuff, and I just wanna make sure that
The 5%.
we're in step.
5% is in the promotion side.
But I was saying
Promotion and
step
relat.
5.
Step 5 is for new hires. So if you're hiring somebody who you're requiring more than 5 years of experience, what Tina's saying is, then what you should do is say, you should have flexibility to go up to step
Understood.
5.
I understand.
And then we should turn around and be in, our recommendation after step 5.
But my
But,
pushback
yeah.
to you, I think,
Yeah,
is
no,
gonna
I
be
get it.
this.
Yeah,
You're telling me, or what I think, if I'm understanding what you're saying, hiring an external person
bring them in
could
there.
bring them in at a higher rate than promoting someone.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
And is
and I
that
don't think-
fair?
Yeah, I don't think that's.
No,
fair.
that's
And so I
right.
just, again, I'm not sitting here on
Yeah.
either side of the table. I just want you guys to think about that, because
That's why,
respectfully, the
that's why I
the
think,
devil I know in many cases is
Right.
far better than the devil I don't know, and again, I'm not personalizing it, but
but that's why I'm thinking that you leave the 5% for the promotion, and that you leave the step 3 for the,
Higher.
for the new hire.
And if I had to come, if I had to hire, for example, again, using the same position we talked about ad nauseam tonight. If I had to hire that person at a grade 5, the process that would have to be used is I would come here.
Right.
The wage
get our
personnel and say, I'd like to hire this person at a grade 5,
And here's why.
ask for your recommendation.
Yep.
And if you support it, great, and if you don't support it, then
now-
it goes forward to the board slide.
Correct, no matter what.
Okay, perfect, thank you, yep, got it.
Yep.
Sorry.
Can I
No,
throw something else?
I think what Tina's asking, and I agree, is that the practice should be in the bylaw.
I agree. No,
Yeah,
I
not just
think
the
that,
practice. I don't like practice.
no, I agree. The clearer it is to
Yeah.
everybody, then,
All right.
then
So that's, Jennifer's, we have to come up with some language for that.
Yes.
Okay, I think what we'll do is, I'll throw something at you to throw to Tina throws it back to Jennifer, and then we'll discuss it at the next meeting.
We'll play catch.
All right,
Can I say something and
Yeah.
you can say, Tina, shut up?
I'm
Yes.
just afraid that
Should the,
You wanna know?
should
She's the
the
bill, right?
promotion
Rocket.
reclass percentage be 7 instead of 5 then? To
well,
make it more fair, because we are bringing someone, we're trying to retain and not value, whatever the word I'm looking for, people that are already here.
Retain?
Retain is one of them, but
Yeah.
also, we're basically saying to someone, you're that great that we're gonna promote you. Are we saying 5% or 7% makes that picture fair?
here's my pushback, I
That's
guess.
kind of random.
Couple of things. I don't have to hire,
It's
so
5%.
if
I
I,
know.
if I'm looking to hire a department head, they don't have to come into the step 5.
No.
Ideally in a perfect world, because they have the experience, they may have to justify stuff.
Sure.
But again, I'll use the same example we've been using. If we ended up having to go outside, if we didn't have to go outside. But what we're trying to do here, I think tonight, and have been doing now for a little while, is to try to find what a reasonable starting salary should be for a position.
For outside or inside?
No, for inside, for this sewer superintendent
Okay,
position.
but-
And let me, and I can, and if we keep it at 5, which I don't, again, I don't think it's harmed my ability to hire anybody yet, I don't think.
Mhm.
or keep them.
Or keep them. Whether it's 5% or 7% or 10%, I can, if I want to hire somebody at 15%, I gotta come here. If I have
That's
to
not
hire.
what that's saying anymore. If they're saying.
If they change.
See, before it was a
5%,
minimum of 5,
right,
so you gave you the flexibility to go to 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever it was.
Right.
But you had to start with a minimum of 5. Right now, it's saying a 5.
Period.
Yeah,
Right,
Right.
so that's why
yeah,
I just
Yeah.
am concerned about, again, flexibility.
I'm trying to give you the flexibility.
I know, I appreciate that. And
That's
again,
why I keep asking.
I'm not advocating to give people more money. It's a real challenge to hire people.
Yes.
And it
It's
has
yeah,
been for a
it
while,
is.
and,
and I
Okay,
mean,
can I leave this like this and sort of?
Yes.
it's good discussion.
Mhm.
I'd like to put it back on the agenda.
Mhm.
It doesn't even have to be the next meeting, it can be the meeting after that, I don't care, but we've been beating this now for about a good 45 minutes, so I'd like to take the thoughts and then come
Yeah.
back, okay?
Yeah.
So, let's move it to, following year. You guys okay with that? All right,
Yeah, because I'm thinking about the 5 now, and it's like, well, maybe.
well, I'm
we
hearing
should-
all this and I agree.
Maybe we should go back to minimum, because there's some flexibility. Yeah.
We can start, maybe what we can do is, in the last several hires, we can take a peek and see how would this apply?
Good.
Yeah.
What,
And
could I-
bring
what?
that
would it have
information back to
done? Right, correct.
Good,
Excuse me.
okay,
All right,
and
the review bylaw amendment request for FY 2025.
2025.
Can I just, I'm sorry, so the rest of my email was that
Oh.
there was 2 other things there.
The sick leave and the
sick leave
miscellaneous
and the
submissions?
miscellaneous,
Yeah.
yeah. So the sick leave, because sick leave, addresses
Workers' comp.
workers' compensation. So KTU, we corrected the language and now the practice to say, if you're on workers' compensation, so workers' comp pays you 60% of an average salary. To make yourself whole, you have to use your own PTO, whereas in the past, the town would just cost. So my recommendation would be to match that.
Mhm.
That's the wording from KTU, so if you want to use that, and then the miscellaneous provision is just to update, because the treasurer's office doesn't do the benefit stuff.
What happens now? If you or I go on workers' compensation as a wage personnel,
Yeah.
do they get, what happens between
So
16 and 100%
technically,
right now?
the town would pay for it, because we don't have anything.
No, I understand that, but that's town meeting, right?
Well,
Bylaw?
no, it's
It's a
the
bylaw
It's
change.
a
So
bylaw.
I-
It would be a
bylaw.
bylaw
But I would advocate
to match KTU.
Oh, no,
Yeah, in this case.
I don't think you're
I
gonna
know.
get an argument about
Okay.
it, but all I'm saying is we got a little.
I just
Oh,
want to
yeah,
make,
yeah.
I just want to make
I'll make
sure
sure
that,
everyone stays
I just
safe
want to make sure.
on
I
wage
know-
personnel.
But I frankly didn't.
She has a leash.
No, you're right. I mean, the law doesn't say we have to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
we've been very good about doing it, but it's also been costly, especially these last few years.
So, what I'd like to do is, when we put this on the bylaws for, the next meeting, will you please just reference 11/6/23?
Yeah, I'll just put the sesame.
Yeah, or just put that email in there too, so that, because Tina has some language in there. I'd like to attack it, fresh it in mind. All right?
All right, so this is the bylaw change request.
Mhm.
This license stipend WNWW.
So what happens now, is, and again, it kind of goes from typically, I think, a union position to a non-union position. Union positions indicate the union contract for, in this particular case, water and wastewater. They have a number of licenses.
Mhm.
And they provided a stipend for licenses that they're required to have. When they leave the KTU union, what has historically happened here is they have been paid and they become a weighted personnel employee. So they, again, the wastewater superintendent
And water.
and water superintendent.
Yeah.
They were both promoted, they both have licenses, they both were given whatever stipends they earned to have those licenses. Wage and personnel says nothing about licenses and the stipends for those licenses. And historically, or up until this current moment, those individuals are paid those stipends for those licenses. What we're asking to do in this particular case is to put that into words. So, because right now, frankly, I'm not sure we have the authorization to give them those stipends. The town has chosen historically to do that. All I'm trying to do is have language in the wage and personnel bylaw that reflects current practice.
And so my recommendation was in the listing of the titles, just to put the asterisk.
Yep.
And then at the bottom, just say that's what it is, because if it's gonna match KTU, that could change anytime, so I wouldn't put a dollar amount.
Right, so and again, when I read this email, I didn't have any problem with it. So, any discussion on the board side?
Nope, I was fine with that.
Okay, so do we need to, it's part of our mail, do we need to, come up with a formal? It'll show up in the changes of the proposed.
That's what I was
changes
gonna
of the
say, yeah.
bylaw. Okay, so, I think when we get to the changing out the bylaw, we just have to remember to put this in.
Oh, I will.
That's all.
Yeah,
All right, and then it'll be part of our change.
Thank you. So easy.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Adding that.
Right.
right,
And
okay.
the wording's done.
what's today?
But we missed a mail item.
Yeah, the first item,
Yeah.
but I have a note that, based on the email, there's a, again, I said this at the last meeting, there's a missing document. I'm gonna find it now.
One of the, jobs.
No, there's a missing page in the email, in the attachment.
And this is for the December 20.
Yeah, this
November
No.
20, number one, November 20.
November 20,
Human
okay.
Resources bylaw amendment request from
Oh,
Susan
Sue.
Woodward. Okay, so it's the 11/20. Park and Rec.
That's why God has print.
No, when I opened it,
Page.
Yes, this is memo.
This is the memo.
I think I just forwarded it from her.
Yeah. And this is her. And basically, if you don't mind, Jen, this is what she does annually when she, requests the changes.
Correct.
okay,
That's-
this is not in here,
No, that's me.
right? Okay.
That's me writing.
Right, so what I'm saying
This is
is,
her.
Jim hasn't seen it.
no, I saw this email, but it just says Schedule C1, programs property coordinate increase with cost of living increase. So all she's asking for is just the cost of living, but
Yeah.
all of it.
And that's what
fine.
she's done
But
in
she-
the past.
Except for the council,
Right.
but it was, I didn't see. Never mind, I
Yeah,
understand.
this is what she usually
Yeah,
does.
that's fine.
It's just a
fine.
different
In
format.
some years, she didn't want all the positions to receive their cost of living. So that's why she does this every year.
Okay. All right, I'm fine with it.
So my question, the only question I had is, what is she talking about, minimum wage? There is no longer any change to the minimum wage.
Right.
Yeah, so she probably just didn't
Probably
realize
just-
that.
I think she wants the counselor position to stay where it is.
Well,
Is that
they would
accurate?
get- They would get the 3.5.
Oh, you don't mean federal, you're
No.
saying,
According to this,
right,
the counselor position minimum wage requirement.
Right.
So
But I-
I would assume she doesn't want that position to receive a cost of living.
you might need clarification on that, because I could see.
Table
how you're
that, table that
taking
to the next meeting too.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, we went through this whole.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Cost
all
of
right.
living thing,
I'll ask her to clarify that.
and I can't understand why that one position would be exempt from any, COLA.
I don't know.
Okay,
But I put all the requests under mail because
Yeah.
I wanted to get them into the.
sure.
So you don't need to act on them tonight, but this is a good review of all the work we need to do.
Yeah, but I'd like to.
Thank you very much, Tina.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, clarification from Sue. Okay,
December 20th email regarding the water administrator.
Right, so we talked about this, this was changing it over to exempt from non-exempt. I feel that's appropriate, given what the position actually does. The job description was attached, I'm not sure why I don't have it printed out for myself, but, oh, no, I do. So what I had them do was, and I worked with them on this, was, update the job description to show the exempt piece of it. As well as fill out a new JAQ to see if it should be reclassified. What I had said was, based on the study, I wasn't getting the same number the study was getting to begin with. So I had an email out to GovHR, and they did respond, but they did it literally like 3 days ago. I haven't read it yet, sorry. So, so I guess there's gonna be two votes with this. One vote would be, do you agree to change it to exempt? Again, my professional recommendation would be it's an exempt position.
Because it's over, she oversees something.
She oversees someone, she is responsible for things, like makes the decisions on certain things, and there's a whole list of FSA stuff that has to.
So-
All right, so next meeting after we get the government.
Yeah, then we can talk about the,
Okay, so
they
next
need,
meeting.
Then how it
change
moves from
from non,
You move to none.
it's in wage and personnel.
Always in none.
Yeah. So this keeps it in wage and personnel.
I did
The
the
exemption
exemptions,
keeps it in
Got
wage
it.
and personnel.
Got it.
because my,
Okay,
this, the X is a JAQ. When I do them, I do the analysis without the JAQ ranking in my head. So when I come up with a check and it matches the X, and that means to me, it makes sense. And so what I might have is some that don't make sense, and the ones that don't agree, when I can't agree, then I just like to talk to you about that,
Okay.
you know?
Well, that's part of the meetings you would have with the
Yeah.
department,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. The, that next one was the social services coordinator.
Mm,
Yes, so, this is, COA. Again, so this position is a new position for all intents and purposes. Basically, what she did was, there was the community outreach, she didn't replace the position when the person left, she assessed to see what she needed. She then looked at the job description to say, this is the direction this position should go in, so you can see the changes of it. This is the same situation, JQ, where what was provided when it was the outreach coordinator, I can't get the numbers to match from what,
Right.
GovHR
you-
did.
give her-
Yeah, so I need
GovHR
another thing here. So what this is at this point is, basically I guess it would be a new position because it's.
Can I just ask a?
Yeah.
Memory question?
Yeah.
When, and maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And if I am, that's fine, but I just, something sticking with me here. When we hired the assistant COA director.
Yeah.
It was a position we weren't
Yes,
going to create again.
program and coordinator, program something and
And
coordinator.
what's this?
This is, this
Outreach.
is community outreach. So this is like social worker,
So different,
different, yeah,
totally different,
totally. different.
because the other position was going to become part of the duties of
Yep.
the assistant.
And it
And
did,
it had,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
All
This
right.
is more of, deals with the residents.
Yeah,
make
no
sure they're
problem, no
taken
problem.
care of,
Yep,
whereas the
yep.
other
I just
ones-
wanted
yeah,
to be clear in my
Yep,
mind. Okay.
absolutely, absolutely.
I
Okay.
remember that.
I remember
Yes.
looking at the minutes.
Yeah,
of the meeting to
remember
make
that,
sure.
checked them.
Okay, so I remember we talked about
So JQ to come on that one, or at least explanation.
it. Okay.
We're getting there.
Yeah, no, we're in good shape.
Did you say
Glad that
JQ
We did this.
to?
Okay, grievance procedure.
Look at all this work I did.
I'm just like a busy little bee. All right.
Anyway,
Grievance procedure.
Oh.
yes, is this one, yes, okay. So,
Take it away, Lorraine.
Yeah.
Alright, what? So anyway, so the town administrator wanted to make sure that we had a grievance procedure within the bylaw. There is one obviously for KTU. So we asked Labor Council to provide one and it was a bit tweaked, and that is what's in front of me today.
Okay. Could we put this on the agenda for the next?
If I could just say that, the reason I thought it made sense to have every union contract with it has a grievance procedure. The wage and personnel employees don't have the same.
No?
So right now, they really are supposed to go to some state agency and file some sort of agreement. And I don't know that that's fair to them or the town,
Mhm.
frankly, to not be able to figure out, that, there's a way
To
to
help
the
solve the
grievance process to solve the problem without involving a state agency.
No, I agree.
It's all we're trying to solve.
There were a couple of things I know you had on there.
Yeah,
I would like to put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
no discussion now.
You can give some highlights.
I have one question. Just one question.
Sure.
Why the change from the responsibility for grievance review? Why was that changed to the board and eliminated the wage and personnel piece of it? Okay,
So
All
I
right.
apologize, I'm not sure what.
All right. Where is my,
You wanna hear grievances?
okay. No, I don't want, there's a lot of things I don't want to do, and there are things that I have to do.
Sure.
But it talks about the fact that we used to be section A.
So
In,
there's no, so correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, this is all new language.
Right.
yes, correct.
So wage and personnel never,
Um,
nothing in the wage and personnel bylaw outlined the process if a wage and personnel employee felt as though they wanted to file a grievance.
There's a section.
I don't believe it's,
I don't know what the section.
I'm looking section Why do I not have the number there? What's happening here in section A? Region personnel is the review board, not the board of select. And that is in somewhere. Where is,
Section 14, personnel appeals.
Thank you.
16.
Mhm.
thank you.
So I think that's related to what's in the bylaw, though, not a particular action. If I'm wrong.
Right, that's what
Right.
Lorraine asked.
No, but I'm saying,
Section A. page A.
so this is, my reading of this is if something in the bylaw isn't
In conflict.
in conflict,
Right.
but it's rates under the classification plan. Probably heard. Yeah. I don't think it has to do with. I don't know.
Yeah, in section 14A, it states
I don't
very
think it has to
clearly.
do with, I was
I don't
treated
know what
unfairly.
chapter
Yeah.
40, section 20 is.
Come on.
Civil service. Civil service.
Okay, Lorraine knows. These are experts.
The wage and personnel board of the town shall constitute the personnel relations review board of the town.
Mhm.
I'm happy to have grievances come here. I don't,
I'm asking why.
why wouldn't they?
No, why would the change have been made? That's all.
I don't want to make any change.
Right, that's what I mean. I don't think there are changes being made here.
Well, I think there's a now.
It
if
is
you use
now.
That language, there's a conflict.
Well,
Is it con-
so there's a couple of things. I think, if I understood what Tina was saying,
Uh-huh.
if there's a conflict in the language that's existing in the personnel bylaw as it sits there today,
Yeah,
somebody has to come to you and ask for your clarification of what is intended in the bylaw.
Mhm.
Right? That's so. I don't know.
I'll give you this.
Sure.
If you go into 14B, it talks about civil service. All right, it doesn't say anything. It says there shall be a personnel, don't do that. There shall be a personnel appeal procedure available to those employees of the town whose rights are under the classification plan have in their opinion been prejudiced except those that would properly be heard under the jurisdiction of the Civil Service Commission.
And that can come out because there is no wage of personnel.
In civil service.
No, civil service doesn't always necessarily
Mean
apply
police
to
fire.
civil service. It's not just police and fire. It's any municipal employee has the benefit of civil service
But nobody
in a
does.
weird way.
Really?
And I would suggest with Jess, I don't believe anybody.
I've never heard of anybody ever
Here it
reaching
does.
out to civil service,
Other than police and fire.
other than
Just
police and fire, and,
police
you
here,
know.
so not even
Oh, you're
fire.
right, not even
Just-
fire.
just-
Yeah.
Any police, sworn police officer except the police chief is civil service.
Civil service.
And they don't follow. it.
No,
So
no,
I don't know that section even needs to be there.
that might be something for Kate, because I know that there are requirements and protections in place for an employee who doesn't have civil service in the sense of police and fire.
Mhm.
So I think in some cases you can go to civil service if you want to. It might be an option for them, but maybe that be a question for Kate.
Sure, we'll clarify that with her.
Yeah, because
So-
if there's something nagging at me at
That's
the
fine.
back.
That's
So
yeah.
you're saying that this language is going to take us completely out?
No.
According to this, it is. Rename section 14, personal appeals grievance procedure.
Right,
So
but
that's why
it's,
I'm asking.
but it's adding to it. It's not, because it says
New sections 14C and K. So you,
C through K.
right, but I think that you'll have some conflict between that and what's in here. If you kind of-
I mean, I'm happy to take any comments, and I'd love to hear what the
No,
comments are.
yeah,
I think the intent is to provide a grievance.
No, I
procedure for
agree.
Wage and
Absolutely.
personnel. And the intent was, like, frankly, to have the board of selectmen, the hearing board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the board of selectmen isn't gonna have a problem if you guys want.
No, I know.
don't think.
There are pluses and minuses to having, the Board of Selectmen who are considered part of the organization coming in. It's like, all right, if I have, hypothetically speaking, you have an issue with Gloria.
Mhm.
So Gloria goes to be a supervisor.
Mhm.
She right now, is a contract person, but let's pretend that she's a
Wage and
wage
personnel,
personnel. Right now, she would talk to you and she doesn't like it, and then she would come to the board of Joel. I would hope that she would come to Tina at least first. But at some point, I don't think people are entirely comfortable with an internal review.
Sure.
They like an external review or the appearance of.
Understood, and I'm not here opposed to whoever the appropriate body is to hear the grievance. I just am trying to provide a process for wage and personnel employees who feel as though they've been grieved to be able to file that grievance and have there be some consistency and
Yep.
allow them whatever their due process is. So
Yeah.
if there's a strong feeling from the wage and personnel that it should be wage and personnel, I'm not gonna have any issue with that. I just am
Okay.
trying to find a unbiased group that can allow a person to come in and speak their mind and
Yeah.
make whatever decision they feel appropriate.
Understood.
And I'm just trying to put this off to the next meeting because I'm not familiar with what Amy talks about regarding chapter 40, section 21.
Yeah, we'll get a
And
copy
see
of that.
where the conflicts,
Yeah.
if there are.
We'll
So that's why I suggested
That's what- yeah,
push it off.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
If there are any questions, so my only ask.
I
would
got
be
my
this.
question.
If there are any other questions that anybody has, we have one, if you can get them to Tina.
Yep.
We can try to flush them out for you
Absolutely.
Yep.
before the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the big question I had.
Okay.
Why that, because it's a big change.
I'm
You know.
not opposed to.
Okay. And I'm not turfing it on you either.
Okay.
Oh, no, I know that.
Next on it is
Okay.
email dated December 23rd regarding a new position of procurement officer for FY 25.
So that job description is here. It's obviously for a new position. The JAQ, I don't think I sent it because I wasn't at my desk when I sent
Do
this.
not have a
No.
Yeah.
JAQ,
So I have
Just
to
as
do
a
that.
job description.
and it's not chief procurement officer. It's procurement officer, correct? Who is now gonna be the chief?
Oh, yes.
He is anyway, that
Okay.
position is anyway.
All right, excellent. So
All right,
we
so I have
can't
to
do
do
anything.
JAQ.
on
Waiting
it.
for Jay.
Yeah,
Okay.
waiting on the
All right, so you're
JAQ.
going to send that?
Yep. And then the last item, email dated December 23rd regarding new position treasurer collector for
Yeah.
FY 25.
Yep,
All right, Kyle.
same thing with the JAQ.
Yeah, that was
You have
the
it
same one.
already?
I
I don't
do,
have one.
no, I
Or
have
you'll
it.
send it?
I'll send it.
Oh, okay.
Charles, is there something you'd like to say?
No.
Okay.
So just so you guys are aware of the time frame. So the time frame for the appointed collector treasurer position will take effect in July 1st of 26, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a bit of time.
Yep.
That's not something that's the way the language of the town meeting, the town administrator has the authority to advertise and hire a collector on an interim basis for a year. While the last year of the treasurer's term expires, which will be fiscal 26, and then July 1st of 26, fiscal 27, the positions are officially appointed. You can't combine the positions until both positions' current terms have expired.
So it's FY 27,
Yes, ma'am.
July 1, 26.
26, yeah.
Okay. So that goes.
Yeah, okay. So 1 through 6.
Not-
I'll be in my 60s by then.
Yes, you will. I won't.
I'll be over there for lunch,
So-
breakfast, whatever else. Why are you laughing at me? I can sit right next to you.
I was gonna say, I go over there and I hang around with, aromatherapy people.
I can't.
Any,
Jeez, I believe it'd be 55.
I'll be dust.
Shut up.
there's no other mail.
right.
Okay.
I know,
Not in
trust me.
effect until,
Long time
All right.
now.
Hey.
Next item on the
Going to
agenda
Italy,
is
never
approved
coming back
minutes from November
until
20th.
2027. All right, so this position is in 2027.
I'll start with me.
You are, we are.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks
you
for
are
all your
free.
time. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
All right, take good care and thank you
Anything you
very
need
much.
from me, let me
Elaine. It was good to see you again. Paul, it was nice to see you again.
nice to see you too.
Thank God it's not Monday.
Okay, so review and approve the minutes of November the 20th.
We're not doing anything with the water super or the water super administrator or the water department office administrator?
No,
went
that's
through
next
that.
meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I need the change. But I need to talk to,
okay.
I just listed them under there just to get them.
Yeah, well, it
just to
was
get it
helpful.
Documented that
Right.
they're requested.
So
Yeah.
question I have is, has anybody, I've reviewed the minutes of November 20th and I had no issue with them.
Might say okay to approve.
Okay, so,
All right,
Darlene, anything on you?
Nope.
Okay,
Okay.
could I have a motion?
I move to approve the open session minutes of November 2023.
As written.
As written.
Darlene, can I get a second?
I second.
Yeah, I'll call the roll, Darlene.
Yes.
Lorraine?
Yes.
Jim, yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, for the next meeting,
The hell of a
Okay.
night.
No,
it's
this
the
was-
first items 1 through 6 on the mail will be on the next meeting. Okay,
I just
number
lost my-
7 will be the meeting after.
Okay, so 1 through 6
1 through 6 on the mail will be part of the next meeting.
on
Okay.
February meeting.
Mhm.
And then,
And we also have Tina's email with the changes to those sections.
The bylaw.
Yes.
So you, the email of the,
I have-
November 11th, I think I
I
said.
have to do.
Yep,
and do you guys have to go to first look?
March,
Sometime near March, I don't know the date.
we might end up having to do a tour.
Mhm.
And then,
That's okay.
I had given you the email about 3.5% COLA.
Yep,
So
I
you
got
guys
that
have to
here.
Figure that out. Gonna make that recommendation.
Yeah. Well, that's
So,
what I was doing on the Park and Rec schedule, the seasonal. I did the 3.5.
so the next meeting scheduled would be February 19th, which is, I think, President's Day.
Yes, that's the holiday.
Right, so, my suggestion would be that we're gonna have a lot of work to do in February and March. I would propose that we move our meeting up to February the 12th. If you guys are okay with that.
Friday, right?
Monday.
Oh, wait.
12, but
You guys are okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with
So
the
you
12.
can find out if that's available
Yeah.
and let us know, please.
is Darlene okay
What
with
time?
that?
Darlene, you okay?
Wait, so what time? 6 o'clock, right?
6
Yeah.
o'clock, if that's all right? All right, You good?
I'm gonna do it.
Mhm.
so she'll get back to us to let us know it's available, but I would plan on the 12th. All right,
Do you
and the
want-
reason is that will give us the ability to add another meeting in March if we need.
Yeah,
But not another meeting in February.
Unless, possibly, but we'll decide that on the 12th.
Okay.
because you don't want to be bumping into people that, maybe on vacation with their families and,
No, I
yeah,
was
who
gonna
knows?
say you need
There's no
another-
family life balance, come on.
I know it's no family life,
Balance, come on,
February 26th, but let's do the 12th first.
All right,
And
Do you want me to see if there's a room available? on
you can
February?
do that as a side note.
February what, 26, excuse me. that was
Yeah.
rude.
yeah,
All right.
February- I'll put tentative, how's that,
Mhm.
for February 26th, but at least
So,
if I know there's a room, then if you want to meet, I can say yes.
the 26th,
As a second meeting.
so,
that's a Thursday?
no, so it's
No.
a Monday.
It's a Monday, yeah.
The
Oh, I'm
last
in
Monday
January.
February.
I forgot,
Last
sorry.
Monday
I'm
in
just gonna
February.
find out if there's a room.
Available. We haven't scheduled the meeting. yet.
Yeah, tentative.
Okay,
And you guys are fine if the room is anywhere, right? Like, even
Correct.
If it's over at
well, just as
COA.
long as we have that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, just so you know, at the next meeting, the mail is 1 through 6,
Mhm.
plus Tina's email regarding those bylaw changes.
Or second.
The 4 sections.
but I already gave that to you.
Yes, you
Okay.
gave it to us. But if it, right, I just want it on the agenda and this way, when we do the agenda, we just make sure that those emails, because it's very helpful.
I'm gonna do a draft tomorrow before I forget.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
super helpful when you do that.
Yeah.
This was like really helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, the
it was.
bylaw
Yeah.
request.
The
With the
Jason
email,
Yeah.
Really,
That was
very
helpful.
helpful.
That was very, very good.
Yeah.
Well, it's because I, remember, I used this to do the minutes. So now when I do the minutes, the civic clerk, all the information's already there. I don't have to look it up a second time for the minutes.
Okay.
Mm.
Awesome.
Is there anything else for the good of the group?
I don't
New
think so.
business.
It's been
New
good for the
business?
night.
I don't have
it.
it. I'm
Okay,
asking
any
you.
new
Motion to
business?
address it.
Okay.
No, no,
Anybody,
no.
anything on anybody's mind?
That's a different question. I'll take it.
Do not open that can of worms.
Okay, then if not seeing any other issues, any issues from the secretary? then
No,
I
I
would
just-
take a motion to close the meeting.
I move to adjourn the meeting at 8:42.
Can I have a second, please?
I second.
Can I call the roll? Darlene,
I.
Lorraine,
Aye,
Jim, yes.
aye, I should have gone away.
You still can. It hasn't.
I'm going now.